All right, we are back after Mike was so excited that Jahmyr that he ended the stream. I mean, thought what
Gibbs broke the internet.
Gibbs broke us. Yeah, that's crazy.
There's no way Swift stays on the team, right? They've got to trade him.
Swift's guess, man. They might release him if he's got money.
Either way, this is just I think we're in agreement. Like, this is a bad landing spot for Gibbs, so right? I mean,
oh, definitely.
With Montgomery coming in,
especially one QB.
I mean, this is awful.
I don't think so.
Okay,
I brought this up on the show that I did last night. I thought they'd take him in the second round. The way that they use Swift when he was healthy, I think if they use Gibbs that way, that he will be fine. I don't think that same thing I kind of argued with Bijan earlier. I don't think they're going to use him as the like quote unquote workhorse back, right? They still have David Montgomery there. Montgomery's going to get his work. I think they will use him in specific situations. They will throw him the ball a lot. I think they'll maximize his touches. I forgot what his name is, Ben something, but he's in my opinion, he's a very good offensive coordinator. I think it's a great spot for them because they have a great offensive line. Jared Goff is not afraid to check the ball down to him as well, which is where his fantasy points are going to come from. So I think it's a great landing spot for Gibbs. Depending, I don't know what he'll do this year if they keep Swift, because I think if they keep Swift there, it's going to be the Swift Montgomery show. And I don't think we see Gibbs much until next year. But if they move on from Swift, I think you're going to see a ton of Gibbs and Montgomery. He's not going to be that RB1, but I think he could be a very high-end RB2 for you.
Well, I don't know why Swift fell out of favor with them. Like maybe being a little bit soft. They want to play through some of those injuries, but he always looked good like on the field. I think they had envisioned a Kamara-like role for him, right? With a heavy down banger, playing the Mark Ingram role. But I think what they always wanted Swift to be was that Kamara type. Maybe that will be what hopefully Gibbs can be, and they move on from Swift. But like you said, if Swift ended up staying, like this is just a muddled backfield, like running back by committee. I don't love it. Obviously, I think we were hoping for more, right? Like it's like Chiefs at 31 or something, taking over Jerick McKinnon role and rushing a little bit as well. Like that would have been like more fun, I think. But I don't know. It's okay, I guess. I got to talk myself into it like I talked myself into Swift last time when he was drafted there.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, right? What was Swift's scouting report coming out of Georgia, right? The guy who could only cut left, didn't know how to cut right, and a guy that, had injury issues, but was going to, had good potential because he was a pass catcher. We have Jahmyr Gibbs, who can cut both ways, is still a decent pass catcher. And so if they're looking at Swift as a guy that's not going to be a power back anyway, I think Swift's time there is over because he's covering basically the same bases except for the fact that Swift was expected to be slightly more of a between the tackles guy coming out, and they're finding out that he can't do that on that workload. And so Jahmyr Gibbs is a younger, cheaper version of that at this point. So why not, I guess.
I mean, at this point, do they trade Swift?
Well, I think there was some reports coming out right before the draft, right?
That
getting calls on him or something like that. There might have been some brief reports I thought I was reading about that they were getting calls on him. So, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I always say this about him, that they kind of like, even this past year was really weird. Him coming out and saying like, "Oh, I'm healthy. Like I can play I'm ready to go. Give me a full workload." And then being like, "No, he's injured." And him not being on the injury report at all. And then the game coming and them not giving him anything. It's like, I almost feel like they unfairly labeled him off of the early start in his career. It almost seemed like he was willing to play through the injuries last year and saying, give me the workload and wanting to show, and they just wouldn't do it. Like they've lost faith in him, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's fair. It definitely seems like they've lost faith in him. Have we lost faith in him? Does anybody think he can be fantasy relevant in a new landing spot?
Who needs a running back right now?
Yeah,
great question.
He could be fantasy relevant. He ain't going to be on my team.
Tampa Bay
RB2 or better.
I mean, I think he could be an RB2 somewhere. I don't know if last year, the last couple of years, a lot of people in dynasty drafts have pushed him being a top 12. And maybe that's because he's capable of producing some of those games, but they never used him that way in Detroit. And I don't know that anyone else is going to either.
Yeah. I mean, we still have some landing spots. Like we got to see what happens with with like Minnesota and Dalvin Cook there. What Cincinnati does with Joe Mixon as well. There's been some rumors that they might cut him. Like, I don't know. There could be some openings in a place like that for him. But again, I don't know if he'll be a full-time role player in any of those places. But yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs is not 215, by the way. So he is 199 soaking wet with 10 burgers in him from the night before.
Yeah,
he put a weight in his pocket when they weighed him.
I'm still hoping that, like, because he kind of ran faster than I actually thought he would run. I'm hoping he kind of slimmed down for the combine, was training very hard, and his playing weight's more around like 200, 203, 204. Like, I don't know, but I didn't expect him to run 4.3.
Meanwhile, the Packers seem content to let Jordan Love actually play with Josiah DeGuara as a starting tight end.
What is the overall thoughts on Luke Van Ness anyways, the guy who didn't even start at Iowa?
Really quick, Pittsburgh just traded up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's for tackle.
I would think
Pittsburgh
that
traded up
almost
for Jones. Yeah.
I would think that would almost have to be offensive line here. Pittsburgh does need one.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's Broderick Jones. As for Lucas Van Ness, he didn't start because Iowa has that like seniority thing going on. I have him as a 5 tech. I don't think he's a true edge. He's just a little bit bigger. Think of what's his name? They're like Chauncey Golston, maybe, where he can play inside a little bit. Or other, like a lot of Iowa edges have come into the league and been 5 techs and even 3 techs after bulking up because they all are very good run defenders. Lucas Van Ness is a better pass rusher than most of those guys. And he has the ability, I guess, to play edge, but I wouldn't put him there. I think you get plus pass rush upside at 5 tech with him instead of a decent pass rush plus ish run defense on edge. And so like maybe in an even front he can play out there. But as far as I know, I think Green Bay plays an odd front, right? And so I think that's a 5 tech territory there. And actually no, they've been playing even fronts, right, with Rashawn Gary and all that. So he's that means he's playing an edge out there. And so I don't know that he'll get sack numbers, but he's just a good all-around defender, caused a lot of chaos, and he's strong as a bull like all those corn-fed Iowa boys are. So
with
if I'm not mistaken, I think Packers were one of the worst teams against the run last year, if I'm not mistaken. Could be just trying to shore up that defensive line a little bit. I can't remember specifically, though.
They may need to shore up the defensive line, but they definitely needed to shore up the pass catchers, especially after the Aaron Rodgers trade, because they no longer have a quarterback who can make wide receivers actually look good. Aaron Rodgers trade, I'm sure everybody listening is already familiar with that, but just to recap it, the Jets received Aaron Rodgers, pick 15 and pick 170, which is a 5th round pick. The Packers received pick 13, pick 42, pick 207, which is a 6th round pick, and a conditional 2nd round pick in 2024, which becomes a first if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of his snaps. It is now Jordan Love time in Green Bay. He only has 1 year left on his contract, plus the 5th-year option, which I think at this point we probably assume
they definitely got to pick that up. Right?
I think we assume they picked that up. But what are our thoughts here on Jordan Love? Is there anybody out there who's a Jordan Love believer?
I am a optimist. I honestly feel like they shouldn't go ahead and extend him. It should be a wait see, like a Daniel Jones type situation per se. Just because of the quarterbacks that we're gonna come up real soon. We're talking Caleb Williams. We're talking Drake May. Generational quarterbacks that could change the game. If Jordan Love is not the answer, they could quickly kind of move on and kind of do it. And they have weapons. I was thinking maybe JSN would kind of go at 13. So he's fallen back a little bit. Maybe they'll come back up and get a wide receiver, but they got some young weapons, especially with Dobbs and with Watson as well. A lot of people are selling him because Rodgers is out of town. I don't think you should do that so quickly. I think that if Jordan Love's not the answer, there's a quick solution with the quarterbacks that are coming up very quickly. And who's to say, I don't want to bring his name up too quickly, but what if DJU reemerges? What if we see other guys to kind of come through. So this could be interesting for sure. But I'm optimistic that Love can do it, especially sitting behind Rodgers. So you hope that he'd pick something up in those couple of years that he was behind him. So we'll see how it happens.
But I mean, Green Bay's got to do something to put some more options in there, because you mentioned Dobbs and Watson. That combined with Samori Toure, who was their 3 receivers they took last year, are the only receivers they have, literally.
Yep.
And Josiah DeGuara, who is more suited to be a blocker, is currently profiling as their tight end 1. They kept Aaron Jones. That's good. And they still have A.J. Dillon. So if they just want to do the power running game, I guess that's good. But Jordan Love, it's not just that he's following Aaron Rodgers. What are they putting him around in?
You think they have to go after, like, move it to get Kincaid, maybe Mayer. They got to get somebody.
Well, that's why drafting an edge, that's the quintessential last 3 years of Green Bay. That's what used to piss Aaron Rodgers off. Now they're just, hey, Jordan, hope you make it work.
Best of luck. We're getting Caleb Williams. Bye.
I mean, okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the Packers may have one of the worst rosters in the league now at this point. So we could see them in the top 3.
Offensive skill players. They still have some good defensive pieces, and they still have some good pieces. Otherwise, it's more their receiving core. Their receiving core was bad last year. It's possibly worse this year. They have no depth.
Their offensive line wasn't great last year either, if I recall correctly, right?
It was okay.
Okay. Sorry,
Green
Barnabas.
Bay's offensive line is one of the most biased in favor of offensive lines in the NFL, and that's statistically proven. So I'm just saying, but I don't remember what I was going to say before. Sorry.
No worries. The Steelers pick is in, and it is Broderick Jones, like we were speculating here. I think this is a great pick for the Steelers. I kind of expected Broderick Jones to go off the board maybe a little earlier than this, but this feels like a fairly good range for him. Barnabas, you may have forgotten what you were going to say a minute ago. What do you have to say on Broderick Jones, though?
I mentioned a little bit earlier, he's kind of like a boxer. He loves just punching guys out, and that's like his thing. He's probably the most mobile offensive tackle of this group. He really runs out there on the edge. He's slightly shorter, I believe, than the other top guys in this class, but he can play left or right. He hasn't played. He's I believe a true junior coming out. I need to pull up the sheet on him, but
he is. Yeah, he was the number 11 recruit in his class. He was a 5-star in the 2020 class.
He got like a little bit of experience as a freshman, but like really his redshirt freshman year, he played left tackle both years. He started both years. They won the championship, and so he didn't start his redshirt freshman year, but he did get freshman all SEC, because they're cycling him out when they're smoking people. So big puncher, big mover. His feet can get a little bit slow when it comes to a kick slide, but he's the most physically gifted probably out of the top guys in this class for sure. And I'll also say a very good fit in Pittsburgh. It's kind of the smash mouth, like working class, like blue collar type guys. Broderick Jones is one of those guys. And so it's probably a good fit. And Austin was talking. I was talking to Austin maybe yesterday about like the left tackle there is probably serviceable, but Broderick Jones can probably switch over to the right. He just hasn't played that much football since high school, so we'll see.
A lot of talent there, and then they need that help on the offensive line. So maybe they can mold him into something like you were saying. But they got to get somebody to protect Pickett. They got to get somebody to open up holes for Najee. So I think this pick made a lot of sense here, and I'm sure Austin is happy about that offensive line pick. The Jets are on the clock right now. I have not seen who they've taken yet, but we talked about the Aaron Rodgers trade a little bit earlier. Now on the Jets have some decent receiving options there. They have Garrett Wilson. They brought in Aaron Rodgers' buddy Alan Lazard. They still have Denzel Mims on the outside, who I think is at least a field stretcher. I don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant, but I think he can fit into that receiving package. What is the Jets' outlook here for 2023, Matt?
They were a very competitive team last year. Had they been able to find any sort of stability at quarterback down the stretch, they might have actually snuck into the playoffs. You mentioned Lazard. They also brought in Mecole Hardman. They still have Corey Davis. Breece Hall hopefully will be able to come back healthy. They had a very strong defense. So I think with a couple of pieces, the AFC East is loaded right now because the Jets have loaded up. I'm starting to get more concerned about Buffalo, who hasn't done anything to improve their situation. People talked about their window closing. It seems like Miami is making moves to surge. Jets are making moves to go up. New England always finds a way to be competitive. That's going to be a killer division and a lot of fun to watch. I think it's going to come down to how Aaron Rodgers coalesces in that system. As somebody whose fandom lived through the Nathaniel Hackett experience, I'm glad he's in New York. And
same.
as far away from me as humanly possible. He had some good years with Rodgers there in Green Bay. Hard to tell if that was more their head coach or him, but they're hoping to reignite some of that magic there. I love Garrett Wilson and what he did as a rookie. I think that's a really solid receiving core they have. Would have made sense for them to take some offensive linemen, and having seen a couple of them go right in front of them, I wonder if they will pivot back and maybe try to take something on defense or somewhere else.
Yeah, you mentioned Garrett Wilson. I think that we all liked Garrett Wilson coming out last year. The landing spot as a rookie wasn't necessarily favorable, but he did have a really impressive year. Corey, with an actual quarterback throwing him the ball and Aaron Rodgers here, how high can Garrett Wilson go? How high are you looking at him in terms of your wide receiver rankings?
Oh, I mean, if we're looking at next year at this time, we're talking about a young guy linked to Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has created a lot of wide receiver ones over his time, a lot of really fantasy relevant wide receivers. We could be looking at top 10 for this guy, honestly, in dynasty rankings near the bottom. We're already seeing guys like Amon-Ra flirt with it. We're seeing guys like that flirt with the bottom when they have that youth and they're showing some of this stuff early in their career. I think Garrett Wilson's definitely got top 10 potential, especially with Aaron Rodgers there now.
Yeah, I'm a big Garrett Wilson believer now at this point. I was not when it was Zach Wilson throwing the ball.
Yeah.
But with an actual quarterback and Aaron Rodgers. And the interesting thing with Aaron Rodgers is he is signed through 2026. They don't really have a great out until 2026. So they have $59 million in dead cap this year. If they cut him, which obviously they wouldn't, $58 million in 2024. And then it skyrockets. I don't know why they structured it this way. $388 million in dead cap in 2025.
That's crazy.
So they're probably not cutting him. If your dead cap is more than the salary cap, you probably I wonder what it does to them if he retires, because that was my bigger concern. We were talking about the compensation that went to Green Bay, which wasn't as high as some other big deals, but could end up being pretty high if Aaron Rodgers, he looked like he had lost a little bit last year in Green Bay. I don't think it was just the team. But he openly said when he went into his darkness retreat, he was 90% sure he was going to retire. And then he came out and decided he would. To me, that's not incredibly comforting when you have your 39-year-old franchise quarterback tell you, well, I was 90% I was going to retire, but I thought, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, and you're right. He did dip last year. Last year was one of his worst statistical seasons, 64.6% completion percentage, which is down from almost 70% the past 2 years. It was his lowest yardage total, lowest ADOT, 6.8%, or 6.8 yards ADOT there as well. So Rodgers may be nearing the end of his career here.
I mean, he was so unclutch in that last game. I thought I was watching Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, didn't he have the game too where he threw like 4 picks or like back-to-back red zone picks? Like who was against Detroit or something? I can't remember.
That was that final game. All they had to do was
win a home
game to get into the playoffs. I was like, did Minnesota send their quarterback just to ensure that Green Bay?
There is some There is something to be said for sometimes, if you don't feel like you're in love with your situation, you're kind of uninterested. I'm hoping that with a new place, he kind of gets this revitalized energy about him and wants to go at it. And I mean, this is probably one of the better. I guess not. I mean, you're talking about Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Corey Davis. It's not. I guess it's not a superstar group. They could maybe still add one other guy here or something. I know Lazard isn't bad, but I don't know. It's maybe the best group he's had in the past 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, you could take Garrett Wilson off of that, and that still might even be the best group he's had in a while because they did add Mecole Hardman too. I forgot about that.
Oh, I forgot. That's right.
So I don't think Mecole Hardman's anything special, but again, what do they have in Green Bay to work with?
I was kind of bummed that they decided to trade Elijah Moore because I was excited to see maybe a better Elijah Moore season with Aaron Rodgers now.
Yeah, I was a Elijah Moore fan as well. I wasn't quite as high as some other people in the industry where I know he got propped up really highly, but now moving on to Cleveland, I think that'll actually be a decent landing spot for him. It's about as good as you could have hoped for in a trade situation.
And the Jets did pivot back to defense.
Edge piece there, yeah.
So I'll go here. You guys
Thank you,
talk. You
Barnabas.
guys talk like Aaron Rodgers was the most unclutch quarterback, as if Tom Brady didn't play that wild card game against the Cowboys. But going back to the pick, Will McDonald IV was my edge 10. The dude is small. He's the second lightest edge in this class to Nolan Smith from Georgia. He is like fast, explosive, twitchy guy, but he's small. Like he has had probably one of the best production profiles in this edge class. He's played really well for a long time in Ames, but he's just small, and I don't know what the plan is for him here. But clearly Saleh has big plans for him. I have not seen McDonald ranked this high by anybody. And so this feels a little bit like the guy they picked from Florida State a couple of years ago, Jermaine Johnson. Oh, he's the run stopper.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. The run stopper from Florida State. Yeah. Will McDonald's a good athlete. He's fast. He's twitchy. He is disruptive, decent hands. It's just he's going to get pushed around. And the key thing to point out here is New York actually wanted Broderick Jones, but the Patriots kind of screwed them over here by trading back with Pittsburgh to get him to screw over the Jets. And so the Jets were kind of left there holding the bag. I think they probably should have traded out there if they wanted an edge there. Murphy was still on the board. I have guys like BJ Ojulari. If you wanted a light guy, I think Nolan Smith was probably the guy you wanted to go with here. So Will McDonald, I did not expect until at least midway through the second, maybe top of the second. He's one of those guys that someone might trade up for at the top of the second, but apparently he's worth 15 for Saleh. So he's not going to draft him without a plan, right? And they work left holding the bag. But yeah, I am surprised, but
if you were watching if you're watching the NFL network broadcast like I was, they were just showing him dunking and jumping over a car. So, maybe Salah saw those videos and thought, hey, let's get an Uber athlete out there. The Commanders are on the clock next, and we had Matt here in our private chat say, what if the Commanders take Will Levis here? Do we think that's actually a possibility that they would take Will Levis here? Because they may not have expected him to be on the board at their pick.
For Sam Howell's sake, I hope not.
Brandon Sanders, resident UNC fan.
Yes, go Sam Howell. He's your leader.
I mean, they're coming out in a lot of support of Sam Howell right now, I guess, and saying he's their guy. So hopefully they're not just, playing mind games with the poor guy and letting him think that. But, I mean, it could potentially be a smoke screen that they're not trying to show their cards. And, again, if they didn't expect him to fall down to here, I don't think it's a bad idea to bring in competition. But, I mean, they could definitely use other pieces of their roster if they actually believe Howell could be the guy.
Like a cornerback.
Yeah.
Like
maybe Gonzalez here.
Yeah, Gonzalez would be a good pick.
Is still on the board at this spot. Although Matt did say that the pick is in. I have not seen that one yet.
It's because
So I will say this. I think the probability that they pick a quarterback was low anyway, for no other reason than they're going through a sale. So if everyone wants to keep their jobs, they probably want to keep a very safe. They're going to want to go with safe picks that will allow new ownership to try to set a new direction. And new direction usually just means new quarterback. And so with the sale going on, they want to have every other piece settled and then just have let new ownership bring in new headliners, but they really just want like a good team around them. And so I haven't seen the pick, but I'm assuming it's a defender because they're pretty happy with their wide receiver core. They like Brian Robinson as far as I'm aware. So
would you like me to tell you who it is?
I saw it.
Do it.
It was a corner.
Do it.
It was Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback out of Mississippi State.
Yeah.
160-pound corner.
Yeah.
I can break him down if you guys need me to.
He had some late rise.
Have at it, Matt. Break
He's a
him down.
cornerback. He played in the SEC. Pretty sure he got some interceptions.
He did.
Really great. He did. Thank you, Brandon, for confirming that. 100% sure.
One game that I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. So Will Levis, actually, I think this is more important. Looks like he's about to start crying right now. He is knees are shaking. He does not look happy. QB1. Little concern.
He does look a little upset. I mean, I can't say I blame him. He probably thought he was going to be gone by this point.
I agree. I think this is the NFL being, I don't care if Austin's probably still not watching, a bunch of pieces of shit again. They did the same thing to Malik Willis last year where they kept telling him he was going to be a top 5 pick and the dude didn't go till the 3rd round. I mean, that does have to suck to expect to be a top 5 pick and then now you're just kind of stuck sitting in this green room. All the cameras are on you. Everybody keeps panning to you every time you're not picked. Like that does have to suck. It doesn't matter how confident you are in your abilities, how good you think you are, to have to sit there and deal with that is just, I mean, I kind of feel for him now. Now I'm starting to become a little less fan. I want to see him go.
We know Washington didn't take him, but do you think he goes somewhere in the 1st round, or is this going to be an?
The problem is I don't know where. Like I know some people are saying Detroit. I think Detroit is so close.
I thought
so Tampa Bay is interesting. I said that on the show with the fantasy intervention guys last night.
Yeah.
Minnesota's interesting because their Kirk Cousins contract I believe is done after this season, so maybe they draft Will Levis and expect him to go there. I don't think New Orleans because they just signed Derek Carr to, was it a 2 or 3 year deal?
Yeah,
it was a 4-year deal.
Okay,
they were sniffing around a lot of quarterbacks though for some reason, but.
Yeah, but I mean, if they've signed Carr to a 4-year deal, I don't know that they pull a Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers situation, have him sit for 4 years, especially because they think they're contenders. I don't believe that, but they seem to think they are. So I think that they'll try and help the team out. So when you're looking at it, so I said this on the fantasy intervention show last night, and I wonder if it could happen now because the team that I thought might go different. I thought they would go defense. I said they would go. I don't think I picked them to go Tyree, who they ended up going. But I would not be surprised if he continues to drop if the Raiders trade back into the 1st and grab him.
Yeah.
Because they seem to
be you still have Detroit going down there. You still have Seattle with another 1st round pick.
I don't think Seattle's taking him. Maybe they will. I don't know. That doesn't seem like a spot. To me, it's going to be Tampa Bay or Minnesota, I would think. I don't think Detroit's taking him either. Detroit's on the clock now. Patriots is already in.
Based on Detroit's 1st pick, no one knows. Detroit's
that's a good point.
I don't hate the Gibbs pick as much. I see Twitter.
I hated it.
About
12. I think you could have waited till 18.
Maybe, but so here's the thing: all the rumors were right now, and I don't know that they would have because they didn't have a 1st pick. When I was looking on Twitter, all the reports were that Miami was trying to trade up because they wanted Jahmyr Gibbs. So if you know that and they didn't give up much for it to move up a couple spots, why not do it? Like, you're a team that they were that close. I know I'm not wrong about Detroit almost making the playoffs. I might have been wrong about Atlanta. I'm not wrong about Detroit almost making the playoffs. Like,
Detroit should have made the playoffs.
Here's the thing with running backs. Like, the reason I think you should take them in the 1st round is because a lot of these teams don't want those guys after their 1st contract anyway. So now you have Gibbs on a 5-year contract cheap, And if they're going to be a playoff team, Christian Gonzalez finally goes off the board. New England Patriots. That's a great pick, actually.
Oh, thanks, Matt. You want to break him
welcome.
down here in a sec too? Then,
yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'll throw it to Barnabas this time. He looks
he's a
bored.
corner.
I think you know
He
he's a corner. Played at actually love Oregon State. Played Oregon State. But anyway, was it Oregon?
He played at
Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah,
Transferred from Colorado.
But yeah, I just think it's a great move for those teams to take those running backs because you get those 5 year, and then if you want to pay them after the fact, you can. But a lot of those guys aren't getting those second contracts. So you control them for 5 years of their career early on. I think Detroit will use him very well. But Barnabas, tell us about Christian Gonzalez. You just look like you're bored. I know you want to talk a little bit. So
Yeah, hold on 1 second. I am currently tweeting out the top 5 in the mock draft contest after 16 picks. So go take a look at that. Number
Sweet.
1 is
who has the most correct? Who has
Is
the
it Chris
most?
K?
Define correct. The most points
Who's the
is
most
Yeah,
points?
it's most points.
tie between CU Tiger alum and Shane Whited right now with 42 points each.
Shane's
Wait,
in the
is
chat.
that the
Shout out
same?
Shane.
That's the same
Is
person.
that the same person?
Shane
Oh,
White
is
and
it?
Cat Tiger's the same person. Yeah.
Well,
I
he's winning
was
both.
given multiple. So I
Yeah.
guess that's
Multiple
probably-
people
yeah,
sent in like the same sheet multiple times. I saw that. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
same person. Yeah,
Okay.
Shane.
I'll delete that. But okay, so Christian
Well,
Gonzalez.
don't delete it just in case, but I'm like 90% sure it's the same person.
It is. It's the same person. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Same person, he says. Yeah.
Yeah. So Christian Gonzalez was a super athletic corner. It's really hard to evaluate his 22 tape because he played at Oregon, where Dan Lanning plays that side saddle cover 3 corner. But he showed off his great athleticism when he was in Colorado. Good corner, and he was probably the standout for the position group at the combine. He has a smooth pedal. His change of direction is good enough. It's like above average, but it's not like it's not like Jeff Okuda level back in the day. But super athletic and just long. And he's probably the more refined version. People are going to want to talk about Joey Porter Jr.'s athletic gifts. Christian Gonzalez is just the more refined version of that. He's a little bit smaller, but he's ready to play. So it's impressive that New England got him here because one, we didn't expect him to fall, but also they also got to screw over the Jets with that trade and still get their guy. So super impressive. I wonder whether New England had conversations about trading up for Spoon. But I mean, if you're at this value, you take that every day.
Absolutely. I mean, Spoon going at 5 overall, they would have had to give up a lot to get up there. You get Christian Gonzalez, who is one of the top corners in this class here as well, like Barnabas was breaking down.
So
If you guys are watching ESPN, the Will Levis moment just got sadder because he looked so sad. His mom just reached over and gave him a hug on national TV.
Oh.
I'm sure they did not realize they were on there.
Oh,
If you watched Draft Day, you saw it coming.
They
Just watch Draft Day.
1,000% are doing that on purpose. They're 1,000% are because they're definitely. I guarantee these are like a little bit behind from what we're seeing, and I guarantee they put that on purpose. Like I guarantee the stuff they showed on NFL Network just a minute ago. You can tell he's clearly frustrated. Like his knees bouncing really hard. He's leaning back and forth. Like you can tell they're doing that on purpose. They want the drama.
That
actually,
also probably wasn't live, to be honest.
Yeah, they've said
that's what I'm
before that
saying.
they
Yeah,
don't
it's not
actually
live.
show live stuff. Like
Yeah,
they pre-record shit and then they put it in the middle so that like you don't see live reactions if they get a phone call and stuff. Like that's actually like a plan of theirs or something.
I know I mentioned this in the chat earlier. How worried are we about these wide receivers now? I mean, we're 18 picks in and we have not seen a wide receiver go off the board.
I made a bet with
losing
Mike
picks.
on our show that there was going to be 4 in the first round. He said 3, and it's not looking so good right now for me. But I mean,
They're a tattoo on the
we've seen a lot of value on the wide receivers increase over the past couple of years. But maybe and I've gotten this feeling a little bit too at times. But this wide receiver class, as good and as depthy as it is and as much quality players as there is, I don't know how many studs are in this group. Like, honestly, outside of the upside of Quentin Johnson and JSN is my number one. But then you've got a trio of small guys who are more complementary players. Then you've got some other upside later on. But it's it's a weird class, even though it is depthy.
I think we're also hitting.
Too. Oh, go ahead, Colin.
I think we're hitting a part too where there's not that many teams left that are going to need a wide receiver. Yeah, I mean the Chargers, I think, could definitely use one.
Chargers,
Minnesota,
Giants,
possibly.
I think the
Giants.
Minnesota's
Kansas
definitely
City,
used one. Yeah,
Minnesota.
been high odds for Quentin Johnson. Minnesota's been. I've been looking.
That would be a good wide receiver
Yeah, I mean,
too.
the big one's going to be, and we'll see Twitter break down if one goes to KC at the end of the first
Yes,
round. But,
absolutely.
I
That
don't.
person.
There's
one.
really not like I've loved the landing spot of JSN to the Chargers, and I would really love for that to happen here the next.
Oh,
couple
that'd be
days, 'cause
awesome.
Same.
I
Yeah.
really think
That'd be
Barnabas
dope
would
for
end up
Dynasty.
losing that bet at that point. But outside of that, like I don't know that he would. Like I think in the Slack channel we talked about this when we brought up that bet. Like if he goes to the Giants, how good do we feel about that? I don't feel great about it. Like I would think maybe
That's
he'll
an
be
upgrade.
close.
No,
but I
I'm
don't know.
I think the
Okay.
Giants would be better than the Chargers because I think if he goes to the Chargers, there's a chance he has to sit behind Keenan Allen because I think he's probably primed for that role with Keenan Allen. And maybe that's a 1-year thing and Keenan Allen's out the door, but he plays like sparingly this year. Giants, he could go be that Sterling Shepard role. And I've talked about this, like Sterling Shepard was a very high volume guy from the
He was
slot
a
when
good
he was
prospect.
healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a good prospect too. He just injuries just ruined the guy's career. But every time he's on the field, high slot role. Like I actually think he would be awesome with the New York
So
Giants.
I think if he went to the Chargers, though, I think that they would kick Allen back outside because he's only got the 1 year left on his contract. I think it would be Allen and Williams on the outside, and they'd put JSN in the slot, which is why I'm hoping, because I think if they do that, I would be shocked if he doesn't break that 2,000 in 2 years. I think he could easily go over 1,000 both years real quick.
Yeah, I think it's
fairly
possible.
easily.
My only
Long-term
concern
potential
with-
in that offense would be amazing. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
taking over that role,
you-
like, yeah.
With the Chargers, probably whatever wide receiver I think goes to the Chargers is likely, because there's not, and for a lot of the community, it seems like there's not a massive separation between JSN, Quentin Johnson, and Jordan Addison. If any one of those guys goes to the Chargers here and is the first wide receiver off the board, I would bet most people will move that wide receiver to their wide receiver one, because you're paired with, not only were you the number one off the board, but now you're paired with Justin Herbert for likely your career, which is just a great landing spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did
My
you
only
guys
concern
just
with-
see Mel Kiper's best five best available?
Do we?
No.
I did not.
Is Will Levis number one?
Will Levis is one, but did
Of
you
course.
realize
Oh my gosh.
that JSN is not his best receiver available?
Who's his
Jalen
best
Hyatt.
receiver?
Jalen
Who do you
Jalen
think
Hyatt?
his number
It's
one
Jalen Hyatt.
receiver? It's not.
Zay Flowers.
Flowers.
Zay.
Oh,
Zay
yeah.
Flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Zay Flowers is going round one. I think Austin said this on the Canton Bound show with you last week, Colin. I 100% agree. I think there's like two teams that like Zay Flowers, and they were talking him up, and then everybody's like, oh, he's going to be a first round pick. He's not better than Josh Downs. And they're like Zay Flowers. I know everybody was talking about how he added like 10 pounds or whatever. Like he didn't play at that weight though. Like I don't think he's that big. He's not, in my opinion, as explosive or as exciting as Josh Downs. I think he's a slot player at the NFL level. Like I would be very surprised if he goes round one. I think he's a great round two guy. I don't think Zay Flowers goes round one. I don't think he deserves to either, to be honest.
Even as the high guy here at C2C on Zay Flowers, like from a Devy angle, I've always kind of like followed him. I got him on a lot of teams. Like I actually agree with you. I think Josh Downs is a more complete player on all three levels of the field. There's things with Flowers that like that bug me a little bit. Play strength a little bit, like hands issues as well. Very inconsistent hands. I never expected him to get first round buzz as a guy who was a supporter. Like I was like, if he goes day two, that's a win for me because I think he's a day two player. But honestly, I will say this to him. There's guys like Kadarius Toney in a sense that the NFL loves. He is probably one of the most electric movers in the open field in his entire draft class. Like I honestly think that he's super like you go through on any highlight film of him, the way he like weaves through traffic and gets through like the first line of defense, second wave of defense. Like he's a special player in traffic. And with the way the league is trending towards, more separation artists like that, I could see why people love him, especially when they're taking guys like Kadarius Toney in like similar spots. So I can see the love for him, but I honestly never expected first round gap bill for him.
I would agree with that. I think that I would be very surprised if he goes in the first round here as well. I think, we talked about it a little bit ago. This is a very deep wide receiver class, but I don't think it's not nearly as top heavy as it was last year. So I'm not overly surprised that we're seeing a bunch of guys fall here.
The Lions
Massive-
pick went in. Jack Campbell, linebacker.
Massive win for Barnabas and Mike, who I believe both like Jack Campbell quite a lot. And so he goes,
He's
"You're
back.
muted, or you're not coming through, Barnabas." Yeah, I knew you guys liked him. He's been the top of your guys' rankings. So
No, he was the top of my rankings.
There
Mike
you go.
wanted
Hey, look.
Sewell up there, and I was like, "Excuse me." No. Jack Campbell's my pick. I got this. He's got that old school height. Like he's like 6'4" or something. Like really tall. It was incredible because preseason, Iowa had 4 guys on the linebacker award list. And Jack Campbell was the last one standing, essentially. And the guy is tall. He's not like the most athletic, fluid athlete. He doesn't turn all that well, but he can drop it well, good enough in coverage, and will smack into any zone. And he's maybe the smartest guy on out of the linebacker prospects this year. He's ready to play, and he's just big. The dude is big. I kind of expected like the Bills to pick him or something, just because it was like it probably reminds him of like Tremaine Edmonds or something, but like just big, long guy that can do everything you need to without being like the Devin White sideline to sideline guy that can actually read offenses. So really, really, really good pick.
I think that makes a lot of sense for the Lions here, given that he's a hard-nosed, tough player. Last name Campbell really fits with Dan Campbell. I think this is a no-brainer. We should have seen this one coming.
So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers seem to be very happy with their pick. This is the first time that I've seen Will Levis smile on camera. Maybe we're finally about to see Will Levis come off the board. I don't know.
They made that pick pretty quick too.
Yeah, it went in fairly quickly.
They posted somebody else on Twitter. So
I'm not saying it is Will Levis. That's just the first time I've seen him smile. So I was hoping maybe he got some good news, but I would not be surprised if it's not him.
Bo Callahan all over again.
You know,
Bo Callahan.
I was gonna make a joke and say
over.
couldn't happen to a better person, but like I feel bad for Levis now. I really do.
I'm getting so scared of Minnesota, man. Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, that's possible, man. Captain Kirk, get replaced.
Oh man.
All right.
Honestly,
yeah,
we can't pick
Not Will
defense to save our lives anyways. So I mean, like, gotta go somewhere else.
Oof, that's a doozy.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. As much as I've, dominated this
Oh, yeah.
defensive talk on the show today, Barnabas, I don't know much about this guy, so I'm going to have to defer to you.
The guy who was taken by Washington?
No,
Yeah.
by Tampa Bay here.
by Tampa Bay.
Oh, by Tampa Bay.
Eli-
Sorry. That's what I meant. Not
they took
Washington.
Kalijah Cansey.
out of
We
Hey,
also didn't talk about Emmanuel Forbes, but we can start with Kalijah
Yeah, go
Cansey. Kalijah Cansey is like a 0th percentile defensive tackle in terms of size metrics. He is tiny, and he's not like Aaron Donald tiny. He's like he makes Aaron Donald look tall. Like we're talking maybe one of the smallest defensive tackles, maybe the smallest defensive tackle ever drafted in the first round. The thing is, he has an amazing production profile. He was causing havoc back there. And so you're hoping that his quicks are good enough that even if he gains a lot of weight at the next level, he can still hold up at 3 tech. I low key think that there's a outside chance that they try to move him outside and make him an edge rusher because he was just that he was just created that much chaos. And so best production profile in the class by a country mile, or a couple kilometers for Corey's sake.
Yeah, I was gonna say Corey.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
Thank you.
And so that's an interesting pick. I was kind of out on Kalijah Cansey. He was my 5th 3 tech. I just don't think he can hold up in the NFL against major blockers. But if you're looking at a team that has somewhat bigger pass rushers, right? They still have like Shaq Barrett, I think, right? And these bigger pass rushers. He might be able to fit in where those bigger guys are able to take on more head-on roles on the tackles, which gives you a little bit more space on the 3 techs.
So I see Seattle is now listed as next.
That's
that
from the
was
trade
supposed to be.
down.
Was that their trade earlier?
No, that's
Well,
their
that was-
second.
it was-
That's their normal pick.
That's their
Pick
normal.
5 is their Broncos. pick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
should have remembered. You're welcome.
Just like Detroit's pick 6 was their Rams pick, and 18 is their actual pick.
Right. Yeah. So Seattle is now. On
There's
the
a lot
clock.
of terrible 2022 teams that aren't picking tonight. They're just at home picking themselves up off the floor.
The Rams?
And the
They're
Broncos.
one of them. Broncos
Yeah,
round
and
3,
the
baby.
How many bathrooms? Russell Wilson should add an extension to his house just to add some bathrooms in there.
He needs to take golf
He doesn't
lessons.
need bathrooms because he was shitting on Mile High Field.
And on the golf course, you forgot that too.
Yeah, there you go.
Tony Romo does do pretty well on the golf course though. I don't know if you guys saw he won the celebrity or whatever.
Well, at least
Right.
he's good at something because he's horrendous at calling football games.
Everybody was
There's
a big
a lot
fan of him at
worse.
the beginning.
No, not me. Worst announcer in my lifetime.
Really?
There were a lot of people who were a fan of him at the beginning. I think his shtick is getting a little stale.
Well, I feel like in the beginning, I feel like he prepared a lot and he came with a lot of extra stats. He knew guys' plays and stuff like that. And I don't know if maybe they told him to reel it back a little bit or whatever, but it almost felt like last year he was showing up and just like using the stats being fed to him in the ear. Like, you know what I mean? It was very like it felt like it wasn't as much work being put into it. I don't know if he's just getting complacent, if he's just feeling good where he is now or whatever, but he definitely took a step back last year. But I liked him in the beginning.
The A team for most of the networks is kind of sad. They're
Shout
not
out to
a lot
Greg
of great-
Olson. Olson killed it.
I did like Greg Olson. I'll be
I did
interested to see.
Have you listened to what's his name? The Fox Big Noon Saturday guy. Oh, his name
Liner?
escaped me. No, well the one who commentates the noon games up for Fox. The white blonde guy.
It's not narrowing it down, Seth.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
We're 11?
It was just one of those things where he was asked on 2 different occasions to explain defensive leverage and got it incorrect both times. So I just, one of the so Brock Heward.
Brock Heward.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. He's very bad.
He's not a very good player either.
Yeah, he was asked to explain defensive leverage twice in the same game against it was Nebraska, Kansas State, or was it Nebraska? Anyway, it was, and he just got it wrong both times, and it was just, and it was like the second time the color commentator was the play-by-play was giving him a second chance in order to answer it correctly, and he still got it wrong. So I just.
So we have somebody in the chat who said they just started paying attention. What are the biggest surprises so far? We'll start off with you, Matt Fox. What was your biggest surprise so far of the night?
I think Jahmyr Gibbs, where he went at 12
Yeah.
to the Lions.
I think that's going to be consensus. Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. Honestly, I thought he could fall out of the first round. I was kind of expecting him more at the top of the second.
I mean, we had 2 running backs going, 0 wide receivers through now 20 picks, which is kind of surprising.
That's also probably the
fits
other
in the
biggest
surprise.
Yeah, that's also probably the other biggest surprise that no wide receivers yet. Almost through pick. Yeah, we're almost through pick 20 here, and I don't think Seattle's going wide receiver unless I don't know they feel like some age there or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of surprised to see Seattle go corner. I guess they struck some gold last year with Wool in there, but they've had one of the worst defensive fronts in the league last year. I'm surprised they don't add a piece. I would be surprised if they didn't find some kind of piece to add here, but it's getting a little thinner.
I think this is a great spot for Miles Murphy, and we saw Shane in the chat who also said the same thing. Honestly, Miles Murphy was a guy that I was mocking to the Falcons a couple times at 8. I think Miles Murphy's a very good player. I'm kind of surprised that he's still available here at 20. I'm not going to call it one of the biggest surprises, but it's definitely a surprise. I think it'd be a phenomenal pick here for Seattle at 20.
I think seeing Arizona trade the pick to Houston, we thought Arizona might trade out of 3, but seeing Houston come up and take back-to-back picks was kind of interesting.
My surprise is there hasn't been like a big trade. There's no AJ Brown trade. There's no D-Hop trade yet. There's no bigger trades happening just yet. Everything's kind of quiet on the Western Front for right now.
Yeah.
Well, and if they're going to do the D-Hop trade, the one that we've seen rumored has always involved pick 22, which we're almost on top of now.
It's close.
We are getting up on that. I think we're also getting up in the range where we could see somebody trade back up in here potentially for Will Levis. I think that's another one of the big surprises is that
Minnesota.
Will Levis is still on the board. Minnesota's up in 2 picks. And after that, I don't think there's anybody else that would take him at this spot. Everybody else has their quarterback. You know, you have the Chargers with Herbert. Baltimore just wrapped up Lamar. Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. Daniel Jones just got a big contract. Dak, Josh Allen, Joe
I don't know.
Burrow.
Let's not put it past the Cowboys. They've done things.
We would see Barnabas walk off this. Off
Yeah,
this
I'd be
show.
done for the night.
I want to
I'd
see
be
his,
done
I want his helmet to get thrown at the wall with a star.
Well, I mean, didn't when he
They
guys
do need a
call him
tight
tight end? There you go. That's
Hey, they need a tight end.
We actually don't need a tight end, but that's a separate conversation. I want to go back real quick. We didn't really talk about Emmanuel Forbes that much, I think. So I do want to give him that credit.
Matt gave his expert breakdown.
Boys, Seahawks, the picks is in.
We need to get Barnabas's breakdown on Emmanuel Forbes.
I can give Emmanuel Forbes very quickly. The guy measured in at the combine where, everyone's giving their best ideal measurements at like 166, which by the way, I weigh more than that at 5'6". So like maybe that has more to do with me than him, but 166 is not good for a corner. Especially because he is above 6 feet tall. But he's just one of those guys that ends up with the ball somehow, some way. It wasn't necessarily athleticism. It wasn't perfect technique, but at Mississippi State, he was ending up with the ball, and it was just he made a lot of plays, and so Washington's getting more of a baller type than a guy who's going to be noticed just for his sheer athleticism. He may not necessarily make the highlight plays as much because just quarterbacks are more accurate in the NFL, but he will do decent coverage and will bat balls away, and he may not get the pick or the pick six or whatever, but he's gonna get some counting stats out there.
Thank you, Barnabas. We just got the Seahawks selection.
Oh boy,
man!
And I think this was a surprising one here. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, first wide receiver off the board. Not necessarily surprising there, but first wide receiver off the board, going pick 20 to Seattle. Jaxon Smith-Njigba had that phenomenal sophomore year with 1,600 yards. This past year, he only played 3 games. He was injured pretty much all year, dealt with a hamstring injury. We are seeing him now go here in the first to Seattle, who has Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf on the roster already. Where do we think JSN slots in here with Seattle? Corey, I'll throw this one over to you first.
Yeah, I was actually just looking into it because I wanted to see how many slot snaps that Lockett was running last year, but he only ran at a 24.4% rate last year at the slot. So it's actually fairly low. There is room for JSN to come in there and compete probably, and at least be a contributing member with those two guys still on the outside. Still tough to see if there's going to be enough volume for all 3 of the guys. If we like all 3, maybe they end up moving off of a guy. I think.
Can I ask a quick question?
Spot, but yeah, go ahead.
Are those slot numbers adjusted for plays in which there was no slot?
I have no idea. I'm looking at Player Profiler, to be honest. I just tried to make a quick look up, and it says slot snaps, 185 of them, 24.4%, number 47 in the league for slots.
Well, because my point is this, right? We know Seattle likes to run the ball a whole lot, right? And that's kind of their identity. So if they're running out of 21 personnel, or even 22 maybe, like there is no slot. So I don't know that you can call that a non-slot snap, right? And so I'm assuming that number goes way higher in the instances where there was a slot, because you're just wide receiver 2. So which is fine. Like you can call someone a wide receiver 2 who plays in the slot a lot, but he's not a slot receiver by sheer virtue of there are no other receivers to put out there when you only have 2 receivers going out.
Yeah, I'm not too sure of their personnel numbers and how they do it, but you are right. They are a run-heavy team, and with Geno back there, they're probably not giving him like the whole keys to the offense all the time. Probably trying to protect him a little bit and be a little bit more of a run-heavy team. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit lacking in opportunity compared to what we probably wanted for him in some of these other places that had more of an area for a wide receiver 2 at least to make an impact. He's probably a wide receiver 3 here on the depth chart without a move for one of these guys. So maybe not the best situation we were hoping for.
I think the go ahead, Colin.
No, I was just gonna say I think Barnabas will be happy with this, with the bet that he has going on with him going to Seattle.
I am. I'm wondering if we should just cash it out now. Just might as well, right? Like...
Yeah, Yeah, it's going to be tough to hit that. If anybody wasn't listening before, Barnabas made a bet that he won't hit 2,000 yards within the first 2 seasons, and I think he's going to have some trouble here now in Seattle for sure.
He is.
Yeah.
Brandon, what are your thoughts?
I was just saying it's going to be a transition time. Like, I Lockett could play outside, so I feel like JSN's just going to kind of slot in and kind of be wide receiver 3 to start. But Lockett is getting up there in age. Metcalf ain't going anywhere, so it's going to be a slower transition. But I'd say in maybe a year or two, then JSN will take over as the wide receiver 2. Maybe hand in hand, maybe Metcalf disappears like he has in a few games where it's just going to be JSN season. So it's possible, but it's going to be a little bit harder in this spot versus the Chargers. I believe the Chargers are up next. If they go Jordan Addison, I'm liking that. That would be a sweet fit, I believe.
But I mean, what's got to be a bummer about where JSN goes to is where he got mocked was a lot of places where people didn't have anywhere. Like if he'd have gone to Houston, he's their best receiver by far,
Receiver 1.
and he gets to grow with his college quarterback, CJ Stroud. That would have been a great potential landing spot. And like you said, here is a team that has 2 established receivers who've been fairly successful, who's also a run-first team with a pretty incredible running back. Ken Walker was dominant when he got his chance, and I don't expect them to go away from that. So kind of a fantasy bummer.
Definitely a fantasy bummer. I think that Geno Smith we just saw the best year that he's had by a long shot here. Do we think he can repeat that season?
No, we talked about that on our show. My podcast partner Dennis said a few times that he thinks that was Geno Smith's career year period, and that's probably accurate.
Yeah, definitely see regression coming.
I would agree with that. But they have a lot of weapons. They have a lot of weapons there now. So I think the Seattle offense could be really interesting next year, and they're going to have to be, because that run defense is going to be awful again as they take a corner and a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Well, they still have Denver's 2nd round pick, which is fairly high, and their own 2nd round pick. So they're not out of picks to waste. Not saying they're going to take a defensive player, but
there's a few tight ends still on the board for them.
Yeah.
They have Noah Fant though at tight end. They just they traded for him,
and they have Will Dissly at tight end and somebody else too.
Ooh, pick is in for Chargers.
Pick is in for the Chargers. A lot of people have been mocking another wide receiver here. Maybe we see a run on wide receivers.
There's been some tight end love here too for offensive skill positions at least.
I've said on the Better Sports Network that I don't think any tight ends go in the first round. I don't think there's any of them that are worthy of going in the first round. If any of them do, I think it's probably going to be Darnell Washington, given his size and his athleticism. But I don't think he deserves it. And I think that I think Michael Mayer would be the only one that I would even consider in the first round.
Wow.
Chargers got him a guy.
And the
West
size and everything here. Chargers take Quentin Johnston, wide receiver from TCU.
I don't mind.
Barnabas wins.
They're drafting essentially the same guy every year, right? Like they're drafting like
Mike Williams.
Just another guy on the outside.
They're just keep trying to make that. They're trying to convince everyone that this profile receiver works, and they just keep taking shots at it. And I don't know that it's ever going to be. I don't know about fantasy relevance, but they're not anywhere near the top producers in the league. And Mike Williams is just hurt constantly, and I don't know.
Well, maybe they're hopeful of that with Quentin too, that he can grow into maybe taking over that Mike Williams role. And I think that we could probably agree that, I mean, besides the testing or whatever, but at least we see a little more fluidness from Quentin Johnston as a mover than from Mike Williams, somebody who's maybe a little more can be used in different ways, where Mike Williams has kind of just been that big jump ball guy. Like they had the talks of treating him like Michael Thomas when what's his name came in, when Joe Lombardi came in, and they tried to use him that way, and it didn't exactly work out. He ended up getting injured, and he was having an okay season, but maybe they're hoping this can bring a little bit more upside to his role eventually if they decide to move on from him. I know they just signed Mike Williams, I think last year though. Does anybody have any idea what that contract was?
4 years.
4
Yeah,
years.
four.
On, yeah, I'm not sure if
Yeah.
there's an out there or something with that, but
Mhm.
yeah, it kind of feels like two guys fighting
Well-
for the same role here.
And also, we can't be sure what the Chargers are going to do with their offense because remember, they went to Kellen Moore, who
Yes.
was in
Yeah.
Dallas. They also have a huge question mark in the backfield. I
Yep,
think had we
exactly.
not seen a Robinson and a Gibbs go, maybe they would have been tempted to take a running back because Eckler's already said he wanted to be traded. And who knows what they have behind him. You know, we didn't really see Isaiah Spiller make any kind of impact last year. But they must – it's the AFC West for the last few years has been an arms race, so I guess it makes some sense for them to keep piling on weapons.
Yeah, I think at this point they almost had to go wide receiver round 1 or round 2 here. They needed somebody given Keenan Allen's age and his contract status, Mike Williams injuries like we were talking about here. So I think it's a very interesting move to say the least. Matt Bruning, what are your thoughts on Quentin Johnston going to the Chargers being paired with Justin Herbert?
I mean, I don't love it. I don't hate it. Obviously, I love being paired to Justin Herbert. Keenan Allen, you know, he could probably – I think he's going to be gone after this year. The contract says that they're probably not bringing him back. I don't really like Mike Williams. I think he's overrated. Maybe that's because of the back injuries he suffered throughout his career. He's been good, and he was efficient at the beginning part of last season, but then he kind of really fell off. If they help develop him and use him the right way, I think Quentin Johnston could be a stud. But I don't know. I think he's got the highest ceiling. I've said that before. He's the size speed that you want of an alpha. Nobody else in this class has that. So I do like the pairing to Justin Herbert, but I feel like we've seen them take these guys a lot and they just don't work out. So I am a little bit worried about that. And I don't love the coaching staff either. I think Brandon Staley has actually kind of been bad for this offense. And I do think that if they end up not having a good year, he could be fired. And then we don't know what this offense will be moving forward. So it's okay. Like I don't love it. I don't hate it.
And we do see Kellen Moore coming in as the offensive coordinator, like Matt was saying. Barnabas, you have experience watching Kellen Moore, given that you're a Cowboys fan and he was your offensive coordinator for a while. What are your thoughts on what this Chargers offense might look like with Kellen Moore?
Kellen Moore is known for running a lot of like stick routes. And I don't know. We'll see. Like Kellen Moore has consistently produced top offenses, right? Whether you want to put that on Kellen Moore or Dak or I don't know, some mixture of both, whatever. Cowboys offense has been one of the top in the league for the past couple of years. Whoever you want to give credit to, whatever. Here's my thing. The Chargers had a speed deficit here, right? Keenan Allen was like a high 4.5 guy coming out even before all the injuries. Mike Williams is not a speed guy, and QJ is known as like a tall, like jump ball guy, but he's only 6'2". Like he's not really as big as people thought he was, because going into the combine, people were like, oh, is he going to be 6'4"? Like, no, he was like 6'2" and like 3/8 or something.
7/10.
7/10. That's not.
I don't think they
unit
measure it in
measurement we
tenths.
use. Yeah.
0.7.
Is that Canadian?
0.7. So he was 5/8 then. Sure. It's
6'3". Let's round up. But first off, we celebrate the Patriots real quick. Bill.
No, we can't because someone decided
Get
to
him off of here.
end the stream as we were trying to drop the Jahmyr Gibbs news. So no, we're not celebrating anything Patriots.
All right. Well, we can celebrate Corey coming back. Corey,
Hello. What's going on,
Ask
buddy?
him if 7/10 of the thing.
you've been missed. In Canada, what do you guys call 7/10?
I have no idea.
That's a fraction. That's
Is it a metric
the
ton?
same. That's the same
Isn't it-
fraction everywhere.
Yeah, isn't that to say like? I don't
Sure,
think we
not
call
a
it
unit
anything
of-
different.
7/10.
and I'm 5'6" and 7/10 too. Then
So I do have a question for the group here. I know I'm coming in here after a little bit of a hiatus. Does QJ go above Gibbs in freshman drafts?
So
Rookie drafts.
I was actually about to ask that. What
Yes.
what are your guys' rankings right now with everything that's gone down?
Oh, say I got them written down. So do you want
Well,
to do super flex or do you want one QB? Which one?
He's
do you want?
Nah, super flex. Most campus of Canton leagues are super flex. So let's stick with
All right, yeah. So super flex depends on what you want.
Wait.
Houston or-
You have to flex while you say this.
I mean, I've been in the gym, bro. Mike, my fellow workout buddy over there. Shout out to Mike. I'd say Bryce Young goes first. Probably you're going to take CJ Stroud. I'd probably push I don't know, man. I like Bijan at Atlanta a lot. I know people are like weird on it, but I love it. He can pass catch. He can do everything. Algier becomes basically just a backup or a handcuff, whatever you want to call him. Basically. Hey, man. Sorry, bro. Trade Algier. Get out of him.
I tried. I really did try. I couldn't get.
Bro, can I vent for a second before we go into this? So I was trying to get Zach Wilson right for like a 4th round, and this dude just kept on be like, "No, I'll take a second for him." I was like, I don't want to sit on Wilson for 2 or 3 years waiting for him to possibly be decent. I was like, why do you want a second? It's ridiculous. Stop having weird expectations when you're trading people, man. Keep trading.
What
Go to
the?
What the?
Oh, I saw it.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
Wait, are we gonna skip the rankings question or what? Let's do rankings real quick.
No, keep going. The pick hasn't technically been announced yet. So go
all
ahead.
right.
No, but that we got no.
Do I need to know? Is it why? Is it?
I think
It's
we
a
got
wide
it.
receiver.
Okay, tell me. I need to know now.
Jalen Hyatt.
It's Zay Flowers.
Zay?
Whoa.
Zay's going to the
Zay
Ravens.
Flowers.
Rest in peace, Rashad Bateman.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's true. OBJ is kind of washed. They might
They're
get
still
D-Hop
trying
still.
to. They're trying to get D-Hop, man. Like
The problem with
Well,
even if you
that.
the problem is even if you love Bateman, they're telling you with all their moves that they don't.
Exactly.
Let him go.
Like
Let
their
him be
OBJ
free.
nuke interest. Now they're going to Zay Flowers. Like they are losing faith in him. So it's hard to
free
keep faith in
Bateman.
yourself in the guy.
It is a new OC there, so maybe just no look.
Yeah, the
Todd
OC
Monken.
that likes to use tight
From
ends.
Georgia.
Todd Monken.
Yeah.
I mean,
They already have tight ends.
No. I want to dispel that myth right there. He used a tight end at Georgia because that was their best receiver when he
It
was
is
in
Brock
ball.
Bowers.
When he was in Cleveland, they did not use the tight end
Tampa.
at all. It was Odell Beckham Jr. and Mike Evans had 1,000 yards every single year with him. What do you mean it was all about the tight end in Tampa?
I didn't say it was all about the tight end, but he likes to use tight ends. He used Cameron Brate
Njoku?
and OJ Howard.
He did not use Cameron Brate that much or OJ
Yes,
Howard.
he
Neither
did.
one of those guys
He couldn't
were
even
that
use
effective.
OJ, honestly. Like,
Yeah,
He actually made them relevant.
He barely made. He made Cameron Brate relevant because he caught touchdowns.
Matt's taking shots at the
Mike
last
Evans-
conflict crowd.
Mike Evans was phenomenal. So was Chris Godwin. When he was in Cleveland, no, it was Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry who both went over 1,000 yards. David Njoku did nothing. The only reason Brock Bowers was a stud at Georgia is because they have nobody else. So, like, this whole tight end narrative, I think, is ridiculous. Now, Mark Andrews is going to be a stud because he is the best receiver at Baltimore. I'm not trying to say that part. But they would use other receivers.
So we can't prove your theory, is what you're saying.
No, I think the receivers are going to be fine. I think Mark Andrews is going to be the one there. He's the best player on that
He's
team
wide
on the
receiver one.
offense. outside of
Yeah,
Lamar.
that's a tight
But they're
end. So
going to
we can't
use-
prove.
Yeah, but it's
We
not
can't-
all about the tight end, though. What everybody's sitting there saying, oh, because he did that with Brock Bowers. Like Cameron Brate, I'll pull up his stats. I do not. He was good
He
in the
had-
red zone. He was
No,
not
he was
having a ton
spotty.
of-
He
He
had
was
like
spotty. I'm not
80
supporting
yeah.
that.
They had
Yeah.
he had about 80 combined catches for his tight ends during his time in Tampa Bay. I looked it up for one of the Canton Bound shows.
That's
All
super
right. So,
80
Mike,
combined.
what's your scouting
80
report on Zay
catches
Flowers, though?
for tight ends?
Yes. So my scouting report on Zay Flowers. Thank you for asking.
Don't ask
Barnabas.
Mike.
No, I got it. You can come in later, Corey.
No,
Oh,
Mike and I agree.
God.
That's why I asked Mike.
Yeah. Okay. So this guy, great release. He has a great release off the line. He played at 170. Don't care that he weighed in 180. We all know he played at 170. All right. We're not falling for this Jalen Reagor stuff again. And he's soft in his routes. He can easily get hit off his routes, which does happen. Okay. He's a slot only guy. He is tough at the catch point.
He's not a slot only guy.
Sometimes. He's sometimes tough.
He
at the
literally
catch point.
played more snaps outside than he played slot.
That's at Boston College. They needed him
yeah,
to.
who was Boston
Yeah.
College trotting out there to play receiver?
No, but I'm saying he
O'Keefe.
operated as a true X though. He's not a slot only guy in his
Corey, you
profile.
made me so mad I pulled off the zipper off my pants. All right. I don't know.
Bro, whoa.
Whoa.
Family friendly.
I thought that was the Christian Gonzalez pick.
Pocket.
Oh,
I
man.
show you, but I also don't want to be on a list.
Yeah, let's not do
Anyway.
that.
I
gonna do
think
that.
the
This
NFL
is-
plays outside Corey though. 5'9" plays on the outside.
No,
Probably
unless
not,
his name is
no.
Tutu
Unless you're like
Atwell.
Scotty Miller, but what's Scotty Miller like 5'10"?
He's also
Like,
a
no.
slot.
Yeah, he's also
No, he's an
slot.
outside guy. Look up Scotty Miller's things.
Oh my God, I
his
will,
things.
Corey.
He
I
played
will.
outside.
Here we go again. Anyway, at the catch point though, he can make some nice acrobatic body adjustments and just look amazing. Other times though, he's got some weird drops. I don't really understand that. Me and Corey have talked about it. And then as a yak threat too, he just has no dog. He just got no dog in him, and that's not optimal. So I don't think he's worth the first. I think he's a fine like late second, early third. People are going to hate that and say he's a second rounder. Fine, he's a second rounder. Alec Pierce went. Tons of guys go in the second that shouldn't go in the second. He can be one of those guys. But
Tyquan Thornton.
Yeah, yeah, I'm still crying from it, dude. I'm still crying.
Wow, the Patriots, right?
Yeah.
He's
going to tear the other zipper off his pants.
and now he goes to a dual threat QB. So it's now a crowded. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Ravens are a crowded wide receiver room officially. So as far as like
a good crowd or like a bad mall crowd,
but is Duvernay the tallest of that group though?
It's a better crowd than Georgia right now in the off season, so that's for sure. But
at least they have a crowd, unlike the Packers.
Yeah,
or Colorado,
or the Patriots. I mean,
Colorado's a good example.
Yeah.
Also, 5'9.25", not 5'10", by the way.
Yeah, why are we biased?
Let's just round up 7/10.
Dude, biased. No, he's 5'9.25".
He's gonna get listed at 5'10" in the NFL.
That's right.
Everybody. Jalen Waddle's listed at 5'10". He came in at 5'9". Like everybody that is like in this range gets bumped up to 5'10" for some reason.
ESPN just told me Zay Flowers is the next Tyreek Hill, so I guess they'll be fine.
I'm watching on NFL Network saying that he's Steve Smith. So
yeah. Either so he's elite.
He's comps, man.
He is elite.
Yeah, either way, he's going on. I agree with a lot. I agree with a lot of what Mike was saying, though. But I do think that I have to give him credit as a yak threat, though. But maybe not play strength wise, but elusiveness wise, I have to give him
his footwork would have Rex Ryan salivating. I mean, he does have really good footwork.
Yeah. The key thing there is he keeps his feet under him. He's not a runner that needs to sail his feet behind him to get acceleration. Like his feet are always under him. It's kind of like a running back style a little bit. Or back in the old NCAA days when your running back was like a full sprint and running like on his over his feet, but it's that animation. That's Zay Flowers, right? Like because he's so short, he can keep that lower center of gravity so low that he can change on that. But he's small. And that likely limits him to slot at the next level. And he doesn't have that. He's not zippy. He's not a Cole Beasley, Scotty Miller type guy where he's just going to zip and run in or and out and call it a day after 5 yards. Like that's not his game. He needs longer things. And a lot of his yards were just because Phil Jerkovich could hang in there long enough behind that abysmal offensive line to give him that 15-yard dig. Like it was not scheme. It was not good throws either. So that's why he had to adjust so often. But I just don't see a guy who's going to be your number one receiver ever potential. And I don't know that there's number two potentially there even. Like he is a guy that you are lucky to have on your receiving core, but he's not a guy that's going to carry your team statistically.
Yeah, I think I see him more as a number two wide receiver. And I think that's probably his ceiling. I don't know why you take a number two wide receiver in the first round here. I think that move kind of perplexes me.
Devonta Smith went in the first.
Yeah, but he was taken to be a wide receiver one at the time.
And he's a Heisman.
That's true, though. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was taken.
And he has a Heisman. Thank you.
There's another Heisman we talked about yesterday in 2005 that went as a UDFA. Just saying.
Jason White. He's got those Carson Strong knees.
Oh, man.
Zay really has some trouble with his hands too, though. Like if you guys watch him, specifically on out routes. I'm telling you, this guy catching outside his frame towards the outside for some reason struggles with it. Double catches it, drops him, flat out drops him. I'm not sure why. And I noticed in his freshman tape and still in his senior tape, he was still doing the same thing. And I'm not sure why. He got a little bit better, but more double catches than just straight dropping. But either way, I'm surprised that he got first round capital, even as someone who supports him, to be honest.
Zay Flowers is now the highest ever Shrine Bowl participant to be drafted.
Oh, I was going to say that. You're not even tracking that data. I'm the one tracking that data. Dude,
you stole Mike's point.
I can't believe I was going to sneak away and tweet that too. I can't believe you just did that to me like that. We're never sharing a room ever
Twitter.
again.
What?
Come on, man.
Nighttime cuddles? I don't know, man.
50 seconds of agony here for my Vikings. Nobody tip me. I want to find out raw here on the screen.
I think this is probably the last spot
or a trade in.
Will Levis, unless there's a trade in.
Oh my god.
It'll be
it is Will Levis. You guys are joking, but it is Will Levis. I'm gonna go get myself a glass. I'll be right back.
That kind of night.
Oh man, I'm stressed.
The pick is in, and we will We'll get Corey's live reaction here in a minute. Corey, what stream are you watching?
NFL
Network. Same.
NFL Network,
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, they're clapping right now. They're pretty happy.
They are happy. They're always clapping though. I'd be a little concerned if they weren't clapping. But has anybody seen Will Levis move?
He was standing up a second ago, man. That's what
not
scares
who
me.
it is.
Okay. Well, you killed it. I said don't kill it.
Oh, let's go.
What is this? Hold on.
I like
Matt,
it. I'm not
Matt.
gonna say. I'm gonna let you find out. But I think it's
Is it
worth it.
favorite?
I love it.
Okay, well, I like that we're excited at least. Let's see what we got here.
I love it. I'll be very curious to see what your thoughts are on it.
Spence is just like killing us.
I haven't seen it yet.
Absolutely.
What would
Are
you
we
like
gonna
the
get
pick to be,
four-
Corey? What would you
Are we
like the
gonna
pick
get
to be?
4 wide
I
receivers?
have no
in a
idea.
row?
I can honestly make a case for everything because we failed at defensive picks for so bad for so many freaking years that it's like.
Ooh, I just
think
saw
I
it. I
can-
love it.
We get
I
a
can make a
Jordan
case for
Addison
everything.
maybe here. This
Yeah,
Favorite
wide
wide
receiver's been a hot
receiver in a row.
pick.
It gives you your bet.
Boy's
with
gonna
Mike.
love it.
I'm gonna love it.
You're gonna love it.
Oh man, is this a UNC guy?
No,
Oh,
I wish. That'd be
okay.
dope. Shout out to my boy Josh Downs.
Okay,
I'm excited for him.
Hey, don't worry. Josh Downs is my wide receiver 4 in this class. So
Thank you,
just so
Barnes.
you
Good
know,
man.
I got you, Brittany. I got you. We
Me
want
too.
to talk about small guys that can only play in the slot. Josh Downs is my guy over Zay Flowers here.
Josh Downs is
Yes,
Hey.
me too. I have him
I've
ranked
already
over
got the
Jalen
graphic
Hurts.
ready to go. I'm
That's
ready to
my
just
boy,
throw this
Rudy.
bad
That's
boy
my
up
boy,
and let,
man.
Here we
let
go.
everybody just
The
react.
graphic
Boy, you're
guy.
gonna love it, bro.
Let's go, man.
Devin
So
Achane.
Yeah,
brutal.
come on, man.
Corey would not like.
He would lose his mind.
What's he handcuffed to Alexander Madison? Yeah, perfect, right? Because y'all are trying to get rid of
I'll
Cook,
take
right?
that. I'll take
There we
that. Jordan
go.
Addison.
There it is.
There you go.
Jordan
There it is.
Addison.
Yeah, that's a nice compliment to Justin Jefferson.
4
There. Yeah.
wide receivers in a row. We get Jordan Addison coming off the board to the Vikings. Former Biletnikoff Award winner. Transfers to USC. Leads the wide receiver room there at USC. Now a first-round selection. Corey, Vikings fan. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, not as bad as I was thinking I was going to be. I thought I was going
No
to
Will
deal with
Levis.
yeah, I thought I was going to deal with some Will Levis there. But no, I mean, we need another option on the outside with Thielen gone. We take some pressure off of Justin Jefferson as well. We saw kind of the shell of Thielen not really be much in the playoffs, and then when teams just focused on taking Justin Jefferson out of the way, he was having to make catches in between double coverage, and then coming down with these crazy one-handers when he's guarded like crazy. We needed somebody to take pressure off of him.
Will's getting
The
it, right?
strength of this team is offense right now, which kind of makes me think that that I wanted to see defense. But like I was talking about before, we failed with defensive picks for freaking years now. Our cornerbacks are playing elsewhere and doing better than they were with us. Like it's ridiculous right now. So I'm okay with this direction, and it's just like improving the thing that is our strength right now. That's kind of how I feel. And I kind of like it for fantasy a little bit. I think that there's room here with how much production comes out of there, with how much Kirk constantly throws for every year. There could be some fantasy upside here.
It's
And
like
with
the
that
Buffalo game.
running
Yeah.
back room being a little a little more unsettled. We don't know what Dalvin
Oh,
Cook's going to do.
Jags just traded the pick to the Giants.
Yeah, Giants moved up one here
Oh
for
God, they're coming up for
160
Will Levis.
160 and 240.
Oh man, that'd
Is
be
it
funny
Will
for
Levis?
DJ.
The Jaguars.
Oh, I don't
they're
know.
Taking Will
I don't-
Levis.
No, I thought the Giants
no,
moved up.
so-
My bad. I thought you said the
The
Giants.
Giants did move up. They were one behind the Jaguars.
Yeah,
so it
Giants
doesn't
moving
make
up for Will
sense.
Levis. Just watch.
Oh, man.
All right, so who's wide receiver 1 now? Because none of these guys got that big a different draft capital.
I'm gonna say
4 in a row.
QJ just because of Allen probably won last year. So I'm gonna say QJ is wide receiver 1 currently, and I'd say Addison probably sneaking up to 2. Unless you're JSN and you're just a believer that he's going to take Lockett's spot immediately.
I mean, I'm a talent over opportunity guy for the most part. So I think JSN is still going to be my wide receiver 1.
I can see that.
Will Levis, though, to the Vikings might be.
Also, now that Mike's back, congratulations to Corey for winning the over on the wide receiver.
On the wide
Yes,
receivers.
sir.
Yes,
That was the fourth
congrats,
wide receiver
sir.
taken.
Get a point here. And,
Tattoo,
Going
sir.
down the
everybody.
stretch.
and wait, Corey, did you take 3 quarterbacks too?
I
Is that you?
took 3.
Oh,
You know me
Mike
as the
took
Will
3.
Levis hater.
Yeah, I took
No one
4.
knows Kentucky like I do. I'm just saying.
I bought
That's
into the
true.
hype. I bought into the buzz, man.
Well, it's not over.
Yeah.
yet.
Hold on.
It's not over
Yeah.
yet.
Can this be a
You gotta
fifth
follow
wide
your
receiver in a
heart.
row? Can this be a fifth
This-
wide receiver in a row?
this
Can
could
you
be
not
a
ruin
fifth
it
wide
for me,
receiver.
Barnes?
Could. I mean,
Giants could use one.
Who would it
But
be?
why would the
Josh
Giants
Downs?
feel the
Well,
need
here
to
in that Shepherd role we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really curious who
Oh
the
my
Giants
God,
felt
bro.
they needed to jump the Jaguars to go get.
If you're out there listening to this, the short wire.
Short wide receivers.
Oh
Yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait for you guys to know the pick.
Well,
Oh,
you
do you
just
know who
said
it is?
short wide receiver. It has to be a short wide receiver now.
Yeah, Tank Dell, dude. Tank Dell.
Oh,
you
no,
hear
no.
the
Please
dude's
be
so
Josh
good.
Downs. Please be my boy Downs.
Oh, if it's, I'd love this spot for Downs. I would love
Oh,
this.
Oh, yeah,
Did
in
you
New
love it
York?
for Wandell too?
There's Corey's wide receiver one.
Take us in.
I love this.
This
Wandale was
one-
actually had some flashes. Okay, so be quiet over there.
I wrote about it.
He may
I
not
guess-
have any more
I
flashes.
guess combined
Yeah.
together they make one wide receiver.
Hey, but the rise of Isaiah Hodgins last year too. Like
They
I
could,
looked
Yeah,
they,
Hodgins.
they could stand on top of each other's shoulders and make a full wide receiver out there in a trench coat.
So is that the pick? Is that who we're is that the pick here?
It's Will Levis. It's Will
it's a-
Levis. I'm
no.
joking around.
It's
Will
just
Levis.
in. It's not offensive.
Yeah, it's
And
just
so nobody's tipped
it's
it
not
yet.
offensive, so it's not. important.
Barnabas is gonna like it though.
I haven't seen it.
I'll
Do you wanna
wait for
just
you to
tell
see.
me?
All right.
It's your boy
Oh
from
no,
Maryland.
I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like Deontay Banks.
Oh, the
you know,
corner.
Yeah, Deontay Banks, corner from Maryland. He's more of a. It's not so much patty cake as he'll just try to beat you up about 15 yards downfield. He like legitimately throwing punches out there. He was like maybe the most flagged Maryland defender this past year. But he has tools. Call Home Depot. He got tools. And he ran fast at the combine. He's good size, long arms. And he played decently well against Marvin Harrison when we played Ohio State. Just like he just draws so many flags. And we've seen guys that are athletically talented get drafted. And those guys don't actually get fewer flags in the NFL. Like they don't grow out of it. It's not something that they can like really coach out of that easily. If anything, they just kind of fade away because coaches are afraid to put them out there. And so I think it's a longer term project. Deontay Banks wasn't expected to come out this year as far as I know. And so he just had like a good report from the committee and they were like, he just came out because of that. And so it's an interesting pick. I wonder why the Giants felt like they needed to trade up for that. But considering the other corners are, I think, more highly rated.
Joey Porter Jr. is still on the board.
Well, of course, you think he's highly rated, but
Kelly Ringo
Yeah.
is still on the board as well.
Keely Ringo,
Ringo belongs in a second. Yeah, he's
no, not even a second. I'm out on him.
So, and the Giants gave up a 5th round pick and a 7th round pick to move up one spot to take a substandard corner.
Yeah, I don't
Hey,
understand.
Gettleman is back, people.
Yeah.
If this was
Well,
Dave
hiatus?
Gettleman, he would have taken a D lineman.
I mean, they probably could have used that too.
That's
so you guys know
Yeah.
you guys know I'm super behind on Peacock. They just showed all of Addison's highlights. I feel so bad for our guy Kai Blue Kelly because every single time anyone talks about Addison, it's always when he gets burned on that double move.
Yeah.
And I just feel bad for the guy. I keep watching it.
all right. Well, we were talking about our rookie rankings. We heard a little bit from Brandon here. Let's throw it over to Corey. Corey, what are your, based on these landing spots and everything that we have going so far, what are your early thoughts on this rookie class?
He's gonna
For
give
fantasy.
all. He's gonna give. I got this, Corey. I got you. He's gonna go Bijan,
That's it.
then Gibbs, and then he's gonna go Zach Charbonnet, who hasn't been selected yet, but he's confident.
Gibbs is dead last.
Hold the
Well,
phone. Brandon's boys might be coming off the board here. Sorry, the Bills are on the clock.
Oh,
my
baby.
bad, Corey. I'm
Oh.
sorry. I
Oh, they
killed
trade-
your
Josh
spotlight.
Downs of Buffalo. Let's go. Come on.
No,
I
I'm
can see
happy. I'm still happy with Bijan first. I still love the landing spot with Atlanta.
Absolutely.
The quarterbacks are still fine at the top there, Stroud and Bryce and Anthony. And then, like, I don't know, it gets tough. I think I still want to stick with JSN for right now. At least my initial thoughts before I like dive into it and give it a little more thought. But I think I'm sticking with JSN as my number 1 right now. And QJ is my number 2. Like, I don't think anything's moving for me right now, really. I like the thing is with Seattle, like I understand that right now it doesn't look the greatest, but in 1 year's time, who knows what we're looking at? Like maybe he's gonna be on a new connection with a new quarterback next year, like whoever they bring in next year, or if Geno stays as a guy, these wide receivers are productive in this system as well. So it's not like it's a bad spot for JSN, really, right? So I think I'm still fine with JSN 1, QJ 2. Gibbs might be the one that falls a little bit for me here, because I don't understand where his value is going to come from here. Like, I might go all 3 wide receivers before I go Gibbs.
Ooh, yeah.
ESPN just updated the Detroit Lions backfield depth chart and put Gibbs as RB1 and Montgomery as 2 and Swift as 3.
Oof. That is a dagger for Swift fans.
Yeah.
Corey, I'm gonna pop the question on back to Debbie here. Do you think QJ goes?
Pop the question?
Oh, where's the ring?
Dude, we're popping stuff over there. But do you think that QJ should be taken before Gibbs in drafts?
There's the theory as well that with this not being a spot that I see initial production from on day one, there's also the theory of these wide receivers are just lasting longer in Dynasty, right? And if he's not going to be making that impact early on in his career to make a difference for you, like, I could see going QJ first, man. I think he's the long-term asset, and I think he has a potential to be more productive early, especially with like Mike Williams injury problems and stuff like that. But with that muddled backfield, unless something happens with the Lions, which is going to be a question we're all going to have to ask ourselves here, where if Swift ends up leaving, we might end up feeling better about Gibbs a little bit. But as of right now, it's pretty muddled.
I'm like I said, I'm a big talent over such opportunity kind of guy. So I'm still with Jahmyr Gibbs here on this one. I don't think you take a running back at 12 if you don't intend to use him. Now, maybe they have Montgomery and him split work, but I still think that they're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think they're going to use him creatively. We know Jared Goff likes to dump the ball off, so I still think I'm going to take Gibbs over QJ. I think QJ is pretty raw. He needs some refinement, I'm not necessarily sure that I don't want to take that risk in the first round.
Are you factoring in the possible 5 years of Justin Herbert?
I mean, Justin Herbert could be great, and if Quentin Johnston's not good, then does it matter?
I didn't think Mike Williams was on a trajectory of good until Herbert showed up, and that was quite a few years of disappointment.
I mean, Mike Williams was solid when he was healthy.
Yeah.
I think he had 1 year that was like 1,000 yards with like 3 touchdowns, and then like he followed up with a muddled injury year, and then it was like year 3 or year 4 for him to really get his feet underneath himself, and that was with Herbert that was there.
So I got an interesting question. So thinking about QJ, thinking about Mike Williams, would you rather, say if you have like the 108, 109, would you rather trade for someone already there like Mike Williams, or would you rather spend it on QJ and wait in the rookie draft? What would be your thoughts there?
I'd take QJ. I think that'd be because I think Mike Williams is probably. I would imagine that contract. I haven't looked at it. I have to pull it up. I imagine that contract probably has an out somewhere sooner than that 4 years actually does.
Right.
And with his injury problems and his age getting up there as well, like I think he's definitely going to be the guy to take over there pretty soon.
Anyone else with thoughts?
So Mike Williams was really a 3-year, $60 million contract. The dead cap is 26 this year, 12.5 next year.
Yeah, so it could be cut next year.
Yeah, some more plausible next year, I guess. Yeah.
I don't know. Everyone's cutting 12.5. Like
yeah,
that's a lot. The Patriots didn't do it. The Patriots didn't do it to Aguilar with 10.
Yeah, but it's Aguilar, so.
But you don't need him to be cut for Quentin Johnston to have an opportunity, because Mike Williams is good for 5 or 6 missed games a year, it seems like, and then
so
a few more games where it kind of disappears.
I think there's also the thing here with, like, you're talking about the risk associated with Quentin Johnston. Yes, there is. He's that size speed guy that's relied on that athleticism throughout his career, is going to have to become a more refined guy at the next level to take that next step and play against these kind of this level of talent at the next level. But Gibbs' weight as well tells us that we should be a little bit worried, right? I mean, he certainly doesn't project as a high volume running back as well. And now you're talking about a guy who's not high volume in a situation where there might not be a lot of volume there. We're gonna have to be relying on him to be crazy efficient with his touches, which is plausible for him. I'm not going to put that past him. He has like that Alvin Kamara in his future, but I think there's risk associated with both guys. I think that's going to be the question, I think, in drafts is QJ or Gibbs in that area right now.
Well, and you have to wonder,
that's very fair.
Is Detroit going to end up with like a backfield like what Philadelphia had last year, where they have three or four guys, and they like them all, and whoever's on the field is on the field.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. We just got the Buffalo pick. That is in now. And Buffalo takes a tight end, Dalton Kincaid, in the
Dawson
first
Knox
round.
is dead.
So they traded up for a tight end?
They
Come on.
trade up for a tight end, and they trade up for a tight end who is undersized at 240 pounds. They trade up with a tight end with a back injury.
They must have thought Dallas was
He is cleared, to be fair, but it looks like they tried to jump in front of Dallas there, who I'm assuming they thought was going to take a tight end.
I would much rather Michael Mayer at
Let's
Dallas.
say Mayer at Dallas is perfect,
Mayer's in
man.
Dallas
He's
is a
Jason
nice
Witten light,
pick.
baby. Yeah.
No, well, here's the thing. Dallas needs a tight end who blocks anyway. Mike McCarthy's
it's a
kind of
Dallas
old school,
fan.
right? And so, like, it didn't make sense that the Bills felt rushed to take Dalton Kincaid there when they could have just they could have sat back a little bit. But yeah, I mean, as a Cowboys fan, we got a couple options here if we want to talk about that, or we can finish talking about Kincaid first.
Yeah, I mean, let's finish talking about Kincaid first. Dalton Kincaid was a 0-star recruit, originally going to San Diego for basketball, ends up at Utah, and then just had a phenomenal year this past year. 70 catches, 890 yards, 8 touchdowns. He did have that back injury at the end of the year. Does seem like he has been cleared now, but it has taken all offseason for him to get cleared. Dalton Kincaid taken in the first round. How high are you taking him in your rookie drafts now, Mike?
Not that high. It's a tight end. Let's be realistic here about it.
I know you hate tight ends.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. In the football sense, I do hate tight ends. He's a fine pass catcher. I just think the Bills are already kind of busy. They have a busy wide receiver core. They kind of already have a set in group there. It's not that I don't think he can't be involved. It's just that I'm asked about, do I think he's top 5, top 7 tight end in the NFL? And the answer is probably not. So I'd rather not take those risks. I'm not a guy that drafts tight ends early. So I'm actually super relieved because my guy is Michael Mayer. And I would rather, if Dallas takes Michael Mayer here in the first, I would much rather Michael Mayer. And I hope somebody takes Kincaid before they take Mayer.
I don't know if Buffalo is set at wide receiver. I think that's
After
actually
Diggs,
need
yeah.
for
A bunch of guys that we had hopes for.
They got the stud Khalil Shakir
guy.
He looked good.
Shakir, right?
If Shakir is on a team's offense, Mike is going to have him as their wide receiver 1, and he's going to keep convinced.
Two.
Yeah, I will say though, Dawson Knox has been like a top 8 tight end, a guy who's been startable considering the landscape of the tight ends. He's actually a very similar-ish player to Knox with the athleticism, because Knox was a pretty athletic guy too. What did he run? Like a low 4.6. Had some pretty good. I think had some pretty good burst numbers too. I can't remember exactly, but they're both on the receiving threat end of things. Like I think there's room here for some production. Like, I mean, it might not be as favorable as landing in Dallas with if Michael Mayer lands there. I still think Mayer will be my number 1 guy, but I could still picture spending like a mid-second on Kincaid in a tight end premium league.
So Knox was tight end 14 last year. I think he only had 1 good year.
But he
had
got
one good year
injured.
at 8.
Didn't he get injured? Knox was injured last year, wasn't he?
No, 16 games played.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
So he
He's
missed
out
one.
that, eh?
Death in the family, I think, right?
He
Yeah,
missed one. Oh, Corey's right.
that's correct.
Point
Yeah,
for
but he missed
Corey.
2
Okay.
during his tight end 8 season in 2021.
Yeah, both
Point for
years
Corey.
like 500 yards and over 6 touchdowns. Like that's in this tight end landscape. Like those aren't bad numbers. But I guess if
That's
he
tight end
finishes-
14. That's tight
Yeah.
end 14.
reception numbers came down a bit too. Yeah, he did have a little bit of a disappointing season. I guess I misremembered how impactful he was last year, at least. But yeah,
I mean, I think once you get beyond the top, like 3-4 tight ends, it's just kind of a crapshoot at that point, anyway.
yeah,
We haven't actually seen first-round tight ends be successful early on in their career, anyway. Some of them.
TJ Hawkinson, right?
TJ was.
he was not though. No, wasn't he? When didn't he start slow with the Lions?
I'll pull it
Yes.
up too.
Yeah,
I think Fant was better as a rookie than Hawkinson.
Hawkinson at year 2 was tight end 5.
Okay,
How about
that's
in year
2.
1?
He was tight end 32 year 1.
Yeah,
There we go.
I
Yeah,
can
it's
remember
tight end.
something.
It's tight end. No one's thinking tight ends are year 1 impact players. They never are.
Usually takes like year 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always been the thing with them. Remember
That's
when we
the
used to give
same.
wide receivers 3 years? That was like the rule.
I do remember
Not
that.
anymore.
Yeah,
Not
I was
anymore.
Not
talking
anymore.
about
Not anymore. No.
talking about that on Canton Bound the one day, and then feel like it was somebody made a comment about how wide receivers don't. We need to see production like immediately now from wide receivers.
Did
Yeah.
Jerry Jones bring his entire extended family to the draft room? Because there's some guys in suits that look like they're high school kids sitting at the Cowboys table.
That's pretty
The
awesome.
grandkids are in the room, yes. Usually. They always are.
Maybe you should let them make the picks. Couldn't it turn out
Do
anymore?
you guys think Will Levis goes to Dallas? Stephen A thinks that they need to take a quarterback.
Makes a great backup, man.
Who are you hoping for here, Barnabas, as a Dallas Cowboys fan?
Yeah, who do you want?
Who do I want?
Yeah.
Like dream scenarios here?
Yeah.
Dream scenario.
JPJ is still on the board. He's like steak tartare, but with those physical tools, Dan Quinn can do some work there.
Mhm.
I'm a big Mozzie guy. I'm okay with a nose tackle this at 26. I think we short up. We don't have any huge needs. If we're gonna take a tight end, I'd rather Sam Laporta probably around later, but
I like Laporta.
I'm hoping not tight end. I could see potentially one of these guards come off. I know the Cowboys loved Steve Avila during the process, and Mike and I had a really good time talking to him in Mobile.
Yeah.
So he's really just a fun guy to talk to. So I wouldn't be like super ecstatic about the value there, but he's a good player and I'd take it. I like his tape a lot. He's a good mover. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping for Joey Porter Jr. at this point. I hope we don't take a linebacker, but at this point, I don't know. Although I'm constantly refreshing my Twitter right now. So
So you're not enjoying this ESPN package where they're showing Michael Mayer and then showing Jason Witten and showing Michael Mayer and then showing Jason Witten, basically indicating that
New Jason
there's
Witten.
only one possible pick for the Cowboys, and it's Jason Witten 2.0, Michael Mayer.
I've been told by Cowboys insiders that it is not a tight end.
Okay.
And they
That's
actually
all
had
the
some of those
information I have.
guys flash last year too. Jake Ferguson, Hendershot. Like they flashed in limited sample sizes, I guess. But like,
I mean,
maybe
Mel
it was some
Kiper's
hope
going to
there.
cry if it's not Michael Mayer. He just spent 5 minutes explaining why he was destined for the Cowboys.
So Albert Breer on his Twitter said that they were looking for the Cole Beasley replacement. So they were looking at Josh Downs, but ultimately took Kincaid over Downs. So there you go, Buffalo.
I
Buffalo
do want to
was
say this
looking-
about
I
Kincaid,
said
though.
Downs as soon as they
I would've
traded
liked-
up, right? Yeah.
I
would've
thought it
loved
was going to be Downs.
here. I
He's
would've loved
perfect for
Do you
that
guys
spot, man.
do you guys remember when everyone's talking about like what if LeBron played football instead of basketball? Dude, we got
Tight end for
Kincaid,
the
so
Dallas.
we can find this answer out now with Kincaid. We can live through.
Oh,
Happy.
Barnabas.
Barnes
Happy.
is partying. Let's go.
Was
Looked
that a
happy.
happy fist pump or was that an upset fist pump? I don't know.
No, I'm good. I actually called it. It was one of the names I said. So
Okay.
I don't know if
there
you guys
you go.
want me to
There we
say
go.
it.
Go ahead. Have at it.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, with a 26th overall pick, the Cowboys, it looks like, are selecting Mozzie Smith, defensive
nice.
tackle from Michigan.
Okay.
Wow.
Do they have any beefy guys up front? They don't really have interior.
Jonathan
defense
Hankins.
line. Oh, Hankins, I guess.
we digging on Jonathan Hankins? No, I've been a Mozzie guy since I just popped on his tape. He's like not super technically refined, but he's a big old grizzly bear in there. Probably the most ideal measurements out of most of the guys. He's big, he's tall, he's thick, and he just causes havoc. He's not really technically refined. He's not like, taking the risks. He's not, he's not doing like, he doesn't have a pass rush plan in his mind, but he just causes havoc. And I just really like the way that he, I like the way that he, anchors down. But yeah. And so,
Happy
Speechless.
with that pick.
I do
I-
want to
we-
say this.
yeah.
Sorry, I want to say this about Will Levis. Will Levis, who's not so far selected, by the way, in the first round. Adam Schefter said this: for what it's worth, Kentucky quarterback Will Levis, who is considered to be a top 30, whatever, took 8 top 30 visits in recent weeks, and the franchises that have all took visits from him have already picked. They're all done.
Oof.
It'd have to be a trade up scenario here now. I don't
Third
see
round,
another
baby.
guy. I don't
Malik
see
Willis
another guy.
light.
So, have you seen why they're saying Will Levis is falling, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard?
The
I have
toe.
not.
No,
They're
it's-
reporting it's the toe. which
Oh,
I don't
come
believe
on.
whatsoever. That
I
is
just
what
thought he was a bust.
Chris Mortensen and ESPN are reporting, is that
Who's
teams
concerned
believe
about
he
a
needs
toe?
surgery on his toe, and he disagrees, and so that's why he's falling. That's what they're saying. That's what
But-
ESPN's reporting.
Didn't the guy from Texas Tech, the defensive end, have like injuries and he still went third overall?
His foot,
fourth?
Yeah.
his foot, yeah, foot surgery.
So
Yeah.
okay,
Dalton Kincaid just had like I said, the back
back-
injury there.
yeah, no,
Back
yeah.
surgery.
JSN was
NFL
injured all year.
NFL teams didn't even clear Dalton Kincaid. His own doctor was calling NFL teams and saying, "Hey, by the way, he's good to go." Yeah, and he just got drafted.
Okay.
Dude, what a doctor!
just
dude.
trying to
Someone
cover their
get the guy an
asses.
NIL deal.
Is this a Clemson doctor?
Yeah, Clemson. I was going to say.
It's one of the Chargers medical
baby.
staff.
Or the Ravens. Apparently, they got the lowest grade in the league, right?
They did. They did.
Yeah.
Hey, until they have somebody that actually punctures another guy's lung.
Facts.
I'm with you.
Dude,
there. I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I traded away Justin Herbert in the league right when that happened. I needed a quarterback for that league, and I traded. This is so sad. I'm so upset about this to this day. I traded for Sam Darnold, straight up.
Ooh.
Justin Herbert. I
He
needed
sees ghosts, man.
He was a QB like 2 for like the first 3 weeks, and I was like, yeah, I need that. I need that for my run.
That was their undefeated start, right? They were like 5-0 or whatever.
Yeah,
He was
yeah. And
rushing
then they
touchdowns
punched,
yeah.
and then they punctured his lung, and Herbert was a goat. I was like, damn.
Sam
to
Darnold,
Baker, man.
the 49ers starter this year, week 1. You heard it here first. Brock Purdy's not going to be ready. Trey Lance going to get traded away, and Sam Darnold's going to start.
Well, we'll see how that one shakes out.
I want to tell
But
you guys a unrelated football story.
Oh, God.
Every
boy.
single year for the NFL draft, I go and order beat-ups. My only time I ever eat beat-ups. I moved to a new town recently.
I don't
It's
even
the
know what
NFL
that is.
draft last
B-dubs,
year.
Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh,
Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh,
we
Yeah.
don't have that
it
here.
sounded like you were saying beat up. So I'm like,
Yeah.
beat up.
We got
Okay,
one
Buffalo
Buffalo
Wild
Wild
Wings. Let's move on, gentlemen. Please, let's be mature about this. And when I looked it up in my new town here, it's a little bit smaller. The closest one is 35 minutes away. I had to call up a local
give it
bar, and I was like, let me get some wings, and like, all right. And I was like, can I get boneless? Because I'm on this live stream, with my fingers being all disgusting. And the person on the phone is a lady. She makes fun of me, and I was like, all right,
It's bonus, bro.
I deserved it. I wasn't arguing. I
Want
deserved
nuggets?
it. And I showed up, and it was just cut up chicken tenders. They just cut it up. It was the worst sauce I ever had, and that's how the draft started last year, which I think got COVID. So it's just terrible.
And they took Tyquan Thornton.
And they took Tyquan.
Man,
Yeah,
trifecta.
dude. Cole Strange was taking a little bit too early. I was okay with the pick. I didn't like where they took him, but
a little bit too early. A
a
little,
little bit too early. He worked out than other first rounders. I'll say that. But yeah. And anyway, but today though, I'll let you guys know I had beat ups today. I drove 35 minutes out of my way to go get it. So I'm
Worth it.
excited about that.
Was it still though cut up chicken tenders?
No, but I was having
boneless.
bourbon with it for the first time ever, and like all of a sudden they were hot. I get Parmesan garlic. I didn't expect that to be hot. It like burned my. I didn't know what's going on. It was weird for me. All right, thanks
All right,
guys
well,
for listening.
Thank you
That was
for that
Thank you.
story. That was
So,
that was lovely.
we are not
I was
sponsored by
just
Buffalo
super
Wild Wings.
excited about my beat ups today.
Says the Jaguars pick is in. Any,
Uh-oh.
any
Jaguars
guesses?
Do you guys
Hey,
want
look
it?
up on the
I have
spread
it.
feed.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go.
Or we could talk
It-
about wings. again.
No, let's do the pick.
Friendship graduate, Oklahoma offensive tackle, Anton Harrison.
Anton Harrison.
Oh, wow. And they just signed a guy too.
I thought the Jags were a really interesting team this offseason for the draft because they don't have a ton of pressing needs. So they could go in a number of different directions, but I do think offensive tackle was a good call.
Yeah.
Barnabas, do you have thoughts here on Anton Harrison as the resident offensive line and every other position besides skill players expert?
Oh, you the fantasy guys didn't want to take this one? Okay.
He blocks.
Oklahoma's offensive line was probably one of the stronger units on that team. Anton
That's not saying
Harrison.
much.
What did I say? Was it wrong? Was
No,
I
no,
wrong
it
when
was
I
a correct statement. It was a correct statement.
Going from the
Anton
Dylan
Harrison and
Gabriel
Wanya
fan.
Morris were their bookends. Wanya Morris, like I said, was the starting left tackle at Tennessee and made Darnell move over to the right. So thanks for laughing, guys. That was funny. Okay. But yeah, Anton Harrison moves pretty well. I question his anchor at times, and he's still fairly young. He's one of the younger tackle prospects in this draft. And so it'll be interesting to see where they plan on. It seems like a very Jaguars offensive line, right? They have a type. It's like these athletic guys who struggle with their anchors a little bit, but they're hoping to develop into like these guys that can work out in space by themselves. And so Anton Harrison's kind of like that guy, those guys, like the Jawan Taylor types, except he has a big butt. So like there's hope for his anchor. So I'll say that, but he is a DC native, so got to give him the mumbo sauce.
He's got that wagon.
Well, and they probably needed some insurance since their left tackle's about to get a PED suspension.
Yes, I've seen that rolling across the bottom of the screen here on NFL Network. All right, well, we are running out of picks here for Will Levis. Cincinnati, New Orleans, Philly, Kansas City. Only 4
Moxley's
teams left.
skin is maybe safe.
I've been thinking that for a while, but I wasn't going to say it because I didn't want to jinx it. Now, if it happens, Barnabas is on you. But
I guess why is it every time they show Will Levis, he's with a different girl now?
He's got a rotation, probably 5 deep.
Does he have the Bo Callahan website?
You know what?
Probably does.
You know what's troubling is one's probably his sister and one's probably his girlfriend, but on these shots, I can't tell which
they
is
look
which.
the same, don't they?
No, they don't look the same, but the interactions are the same. Not a positive
Where's
sign.
Levis from originally?
I wonder what sorority she's from.
He's got a little too much Kentucky in him now.
I was going to say West Virginia, but yeah.
It's more of an Alabama thing. Actually, it's more of a California thing, according to
So
the
you
CDC.
think New Orleans would take Will Levis and then just have Derek Carr and James Winston, who they re-signed and brought back, and Will Levis?
They could just
and no cap space to have any other players.
And
they still have Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
so.
and then they end up throwing Taysom Hill a few times. Yeah,
they already have their quarterback / tight end.
Taysom Hill and Will Levis in the 2 tight end set.
They might as well just throw in the towel and trade their first for Tyler Huntley. I mean,
they should have just ran Taysom Hill out there for the year and just tanked and got the top pick next year. They really have a bad roster.
Somebody who has a lot of shares of Chris Olave, I'm happier to have Derek Carr than.
No, that's true. Yeah. That's true. The only move I feasibly see here for Will Levis is Las Vegas, who's close enough to potentially trade up somewhere. Maybe Philly wants to trade back. They have the extra. They've already had the extra first round pick. Maybe they feel like picking up some more ammo towards the back end if they don't feel like a glaring need here, which they don't really have. They're a pretty well-constructed team. That would probably be the one pick that I could see somebody moving down. Or New Orleans
not that far.
It's true.
Tennessee's only 3 picks after Las Vegas, but I don't know. I don't think we're going to see it.
Or maybe Kansas City is more on the fence about Mahomes than we realized.
And thank God, this is the second.
man.
This is the second year in a row that the NFL has essentially like proved us right in a sense. We hated Will Levis. We hated Malik Willis. We mistakenly started to buy in by the time the draft started.
As prospects.
And before we toot our own horn, let's ask ourselves, who was the only one that was vocal enough to say that he's not a first rounder consistently the whole offseason?
Chris Moxley. Put his skin all in the game, literally.
Put a tag.
All right, who else though? Who's number 2?
Valerie.
Who's number 2? Are we talking about Zach Wilson again?
No.
To be fair,
he is number 2.
To be fair, I think we've all said that he's not a first round talent, but just the buzz keeps telling us that he was going to get taken, and we couldn't understand it. But
that's a cop out, Corey. You're better than that, Corey. Your analysis is better than the people. You know better.
No,
this is the second year in a row, like you were saying, Corey, that we have heard a quarterback hyped up to be a first-round pick that has not ended up being in a first-round pick. Well, I mean, there's still a couple picks left, so we'll see. But for 2024, we have the 2 big names at the top, Caleb Williams, Drake May. We don't really have another strong name right now. Maybe Quinn Ewers. Maybe somebody else could pop in. Who do we think the 2024 quarterback is that could get propped up by the media? Does anybody have any thoughts there?
Bo Nix.
Hey, Michael.
Right away, first name, same name. Yeah. I mean, just because you got the former 5-star pedigree, you got a guy who had a big jump moving to a new position. They're gonna say, "Oh, the situation at Auburn was just bad," but like we've been watching this guy for a while.
They're gonna bring up Justin Herbert coming from Oregon too,
and Mariota.
Yeah.
and Mariota, even though they're different coaching staffs. But
Exactly.
and then the backup answers to Bo Nix, I think it would be probably Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis. Okay, you think
Travis
the media
is
is
a
going to
good
hype up Jordan Travis?
I do, yeah, I do.
I think Spencer Rattler is still somebody who could be hyped up by the media.
Depending on this year,
he'll be the Tanner McKee.
Depending on the season he has, I could see it being Spencer Rattler is the guy that the media is hyping up and everybody else is saying, no, this doesn't make any sense. And then he ends up falling.
Well,
I think
Michael
Penix has a chance to be put in that category.
Bengals
too.
get Miles
He's
Murphy.
got
He
a big
does, yeah.
arm.
Penix
He's
does
got
too,
enough mobility that people are going to fall in love with him.
Yeah, there's a couple guys that could get some buzz for sure.
Yeah, Miles Murphy.
Yeah,
Also,
Jaden
I-
Daniels, if LSU has another really big year.
Yeah,
I agree with what Corey said earlier. I would bet that our entire company, and I know for a fact that our entire company gets credited for fading Will Levis, because I've had other companies tell me that the reason everybody hates Will Levis is because of Campus in Canton, and Campus in Canton is wrong.
Welcome.
And I'm going to be very happy to pull those receipts now, because
Please
we
do.
have, as a company, faded Will Levis.
Can you put in the private chat which company this is?
Yes.
All of them in a row,
There's
please.
multiple,
Thank
so
you.
I'll put both of
Too
them.
many.
But yeah,
I'm confident I
do
know
agree
which
with
ones.
Corey, though, a lot of us said that the only reason we thought he'd go in the first round is because everybody was saying he was going to, and it's kind of hard to fade that much noise. But all of us agreed he shouldn't. Like, none of us said we would take him there. So,
Yeah. Well, the Bengals pick is in, as Matt had said. It is edge Miles Murphy from Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Murphy is a player who had been mocked at the beginning of the offseason in the top 10, hovering around the top 10, falls to pick 28. Barnabas, do you have any thoughts here on Miles Murphy and maybe even why he fell?
Oh, little me? Oh, yeah, sure.
We're done with the fantasy talk. Now we're moving into...
Yeah, Miles Murphy. I think there's going to be some talk about a little bit of helmet scouting and a little bit of there's probably some. I haven't heard exactly why he fell. I think part of it is that they think he might be a bit of a tweener. But Miles Murphy, I think, is a guy who can start in the even front like Bengals run. He basically looks like what you would imagine you would want an even front end to look like. He's nice. He's good, thick build all the way through. He's long and he has good hands. He's not probably quite as fast as you would want. I think that he can maybe be like, he doesn't have the hands, but he's kind of like similar to like an AJ Epinesa, like power rusher type, where he'd rather go through your outside shoulder than go around it. You know, a lot of people are wary because, you know, Clemson has actually done better with their lower rated recruits on the defensive line than their highest guys, like you know, Xavier Thomas is an example. But Miles Murphy is a guy who's going to play the run very well and has some pass rush upside, but he's not a war daddy. He's not going to get a bunch of sacks. I can see probably like his ceiling being 8 sacks a year plus a good run stopper.
Okay.
I have a question, same question, but the other Clemson player that's falling, Brian Bresee. I think I texted you about him, but I wanted to hear your response again.
Barnabas, I'm assuming it's
Barnabas. Yes, Barnabas.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Brian
me.
Bresee.
Oh, sorry,
Brian
Bresee.
Bresee.
From Damascus, about 20 minutes from my house, actually. Brian Bresee has all the physical tools that you would want in a guy. He's maybe the tallest defensive tackle in the class. He's like almost 6'5". And then the thing is that the vast majority of Bresee's production came against lower competition, which, you know, we were wrong about that with like Myles Garrett, for example, right? Myles Garrett had that same production profile where it's like, oh, he had like 70% of his sacks against like the out of conference guys in the beginning of the season. So we've been wrong on that before, but Bresee has been nicked up a lot since high school, frankly. He was kind of the chosen one. He's like, his family's like Damascus athletics royalty or whatever. Yeah, he has all the physical tools, but he's been nicked up a lot, and he's tall enough that it almost works against his leverage a little bit. And so you kind of wonder whether he's quick enough to shoot a gap versus like he's not really a two gapper either. He's just kind of a engage with someone and then play off the run there. Limited pass rush upside. I haven't listed as a 3 tech, but I think most NFL teams are looking at him as 1 tech, which we have only seen one tech come off the board, and that's Mozzie Smith. Jalen Carter's a 3 tech all the way, and like I said, Kalijah Cansey might go either way. So defensive linemen haven't been coming off the board today, but I'm not that surprised that Brian Brzee is still on the board.
Do you think he's like a value at this point though, or like what do you think? At what point you're like, well, it's getting a little bit late. Like when's he become a value?
I think he's right at value right about now. I can see someone trading up on day 2 to go get him. Some scouts saying like, "Yo, he's still on the board. Let's go get him. If he falls to 35, that's tradable distance or whatever." But I don't think that he's going to be like your perennial all-pro type guy. Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
I think
you guys should brace yourselves. For the Saints
Oh my God, is it? Is it?
I just saw like 3 tweets about it. I'm trying to find
Yeah.
someone.
Oh,
like,
man.
actually
Wait.
Perfect.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Nick Underhill for that's one of the.
Oh wow.
I'm
the
trying to
Saints
find
beat
a, like,
writer.
an
The Saints
actual
beat
like,
writer just
NFL
posted.
one or something. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Sleeper
everybody's saying
reported
it's
it too.
Ryan
Sleeper-
Brzee.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
are
Barbara, can you give us the
Clairvoyant.
analysis on Brian, please? We don't know. We're not familiar with.
we're clairvoyant over here.
I mean, like I said, he's a good player. He's going to play the run very well. I don't know whether he's going to play 3 tech or 1 tech here, but he's tall and he has good mass. Granted, he has a pretty athletic build considering he's taller than most of the other, teapot build 1 techs, and so he's going to lose some leverage battles because of that, especially against shorter interior linemen, which the AFC South has some of the shorter guys, and so we'll see how that works out. NFC South has some of those shorter guys in the middle, and so we'll see how that works out for him. But you got to keep up pace with the Atlanta Falcons keeping their entire offensive line together, and who else is in the division? The Bucks
Carolina.
now don't have a quarterback, and Carolina is working through a new quarterback, and has tackles, but their interior line is a little shaky there. So he's definitely adds to a position that probably needed some help. I would have thought the Saints might have gone for someone like Tommy Adebawore. That's kind of their style to me, like these athletic guys.
Yeah, we like
that
him a
can
lot
shoot
too.
gaps a
He
little bit.
ate
Yeah.
at the Senior Bowl. He just absolutely ate there.
He literally threw Jarrett Patterson into a goalpost, and so he
Ruined
got
his
a lot
first round draft capital. It never saw him again mock that high. After the Senior Bowl.
But I mean, Brzie's a good player. That's not the type of player I would expect the Saints to take. So I think he's a 1 tech in that system. But we'll see. Dennis Allen has had some success there, so
I do generally trust them in their defensive picks, but that was like the Sean Payton era, so I'm not sure anymore.
And the GM is no longer there either. Well, not the GM, Terry Fontenot is not there anymore either.
Yeah.
All right, we got 2 picks left here for tonight. We got Philly, we got Kansas City. Philly's been a popular spot for a running back. I don't see any on the board at this point that I could see being a first round draft pick. Does anybody else?
The community liked to hyped up Devin Achane at the end of the year last year, so I don't know, maybe he's a first rounder, but probably not.
Maybe if he ran that 4.3, like 4.3 flat.
Yeah, I think Emory Hunt had like Keaton Mitchell at RB2 or something like that. I don't know.
Philly needs to go trade with Detroit and go get Swift or something.
Yeah, this is the one spot I feel like could be a trade back, possibly, especially we don't have
Detroit trades this
Who
pick
trades?
and Swift.
I mean, JPJ is still here. I'm not like the biggest fan, but I think
Joey Porter Jr. would be a good pick for Philly here.
Yeah.
No, I think Brian Branch might be more suitable for that system because they just lost Chauncey.
They just lost Chauncey, and then they re-signed. They figured out their corner, didn't they? What am I forgetting? Who did they bring back?
Slay. Well, they brought back both of their starters.
Both, right? Yeah,
they brought back both.
Slay left, came back. Yeah.
So if there's one corner, like corner is a spot where they can have someone sit and learn for a while.
Yeah.
Similar to what they did with Nakobe Dean just now. I think Brian Branch though, because they kind of want to shore up that safety spot. And Brian Branch can play everywhere. I think they kind of value that intelligence guy over just like sheer athleticism. I think they learned their lesson with like someone like Sidney Jones. And so I think they're going more towards like a philosophy of taking someone who is just like ready to play right now and like has the brain. Like he was Nick Saban's guy, Brian Branch, right?
Yeah.
Jordan Battle was like the heart and soul of that team, but Brian Branch was the brains of that secondary. So I like him a lot. I think he can play anywhere. I think he can play corner if he really needs to.
Wait. I'm sorry. I'm watching the Brian Breesy announcement. They have all the NFL hats on the table in front of them while they're all celebrating. Like all of them are there for them to pick from. It's so funny. They didn't
Like
hide.
national letter of intent.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of them. Like all.
They sent him all the hats, and he's like,
Damascus Athletics royalty, man. Out in the cornfields of Montgomery County.
I was gonna say I have a couple of Philly friends, fans, anyways, and they were a lot of them were talking about Nolan Smith.
I was just gonna say they took everybody else from Georgia.
Well, because and it's looking at what they did with a guy, because he is kind of like a tweener. He kind of gets that label as a little bit of a tweener, and we saw what they did with a guy like a Hassan Reddick, and we've seen, even a guy like Micah Parsons excel somewhat in that type of role. Like, do you think Nolan Smith is actually a first rounder? Because I've kind of been on the fence if he actually deserves a first round pick, Barnabas.
No, he's 238 pounds.
Yeah.
He has to play in an outside. The tape is good. Nolan Smith is a solid player. There's a reason why he was so high in the recruiting cycle. And he's a good player, and obviously he was successful, and he was, the heart and soul and brains of that defensive line in a lot of ways, according to coaches at Georgia, right? And so, like, he has intangibles, he has good tape. It's just at 238 pounds, what are we doing here? And he has some injury concerns here because he hurt his shoulder and couldn't play in the national championship or something, right? Yeah. And so I would have expected, if a team was going to take a shot on Will McDonald, I would have expected Nolan Smith in that slot because they're kind of similar size. It has to be an odd front outside linebacker. He cannot play on an even front. He's going to get swallowed alive by these offensive tackles.
The pick is in, even though it's not showing it on NFL.
So we're talking a lot about Georgia here and, all of their defensive players. They've won back-to-back national titles. They lose a lot off of that defense, but they do still bring a good amount back. They bring back 67% of their defensive returning production, 48% of the offensive returning production. The SEC looks a little down this year. Do we think Georgia has a shot to three-peat?
No. But sticking with Georgia, they are taking Nolan Smith, who everybody was just talking about.
There it is.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Dude, we are on a roll. We got one
baby.
They're just replicating that Georgia defense. No,
yep.
So the defense, I think, will still be good. Obviously, their schedule is complete crap. Like, they're going to go undefeated. I think their first real test is not till like almost Thanksgiving. Like, they don't play anybody. And I think even if Alabama goes undefeated on the other side, that team doesn't scare me at all. Georgia's going to make the playoffs, and they're going to be undefeated. What scares me about Georgia, although I do think Kirby is an incredible coach and he is a great defensive mastermind, their first real test is going to come in the playoffs. And last year, when we saw them come up against that first real test in the regular season, in a Missouri team that was not that good, they barely held on to beat that team.
Yeah.
If they come up against an Ohio State, a Washington, someone like that in that first round of the playoffs, I think that they'll likely lose that game. Because I don't know that the offense keeps up. I do not think that offense is going to be as good as some do with Bobo there. I don't think he's going to replicate what Monken does. And I'm not in on the Carson Beck future Heisman talk either, to be honest. So I think that Georgia will make the playoffs fairly easily, but I do think that they will end up losing once they get there. I don't think they three-peat.
I think there's not a team out there that really scares me right now. Ohio State, we know that offense is going to be pretty prolific, but the defense still a little bit of a work in progress. The quarterback's still a little unsettled. They don't have a surefire stud like they did last year with CJ Stroud. I think Michigan's losing some production off of their defense. We also saw Michigan, lose to TCU. I think Michigan's very susceptible I don't think their offense could hang enough points on Georgia, to be honest. I don't know. I think Georgia's got a very realistic shot to three-peat.
Yeah, and they could win with defense too. That's the thing. All they need is somebody to just pull the trigger or behind the line there. Carson Beck looks pretty good in my opinion. Like I think he'll do fine in this system. I mean, Bennett did fine in this system. I don't think Beck is a huge step down from that. So, maybe besides his legs, because Bennett did add a little bit with his legs there. Maybe they're more of a running team or not, but I don't know. I agree with Colin where I don't see, especially with even if Alabama, they're a team in like complete turmoil from where they were a year ago or even 2 years ago. I mean, they don't even scare me as much as they used to. I still think I think Georgia could push for that three-peat.
I think they could push for it, but and Shane mentioned it in the chat too, their defense will shut teams down. Yes, they will during the regular season, but when they played good offenses, they did not. And look, I get CJ Stroud had the game of his life. Georgia should not have won that game. They should have lost.
Yeah,
and that was the first time they played a
down
real
to the last minute though. But
that's my point, though. But they gave up 38 points. They played a good offense, and they did not shut them down. Yeah, they're going to shut down everybody they play in the regular season because they don't play anybody. And I think that they will shut down Alabama or LSU. Shane said that he thinks LSU beats Bama fine. I don't think LSU or Bama challenges Georgia. Georgia's coming out of the SEC probably undefeated. I will give you that 100%. My thing is when they get into the playoffs, they're going to end up playing, in my opinion, in Ohio State. They might even end up playing a USC-led Caleb Williams. I don't think
I've seen that USC defense, though.
Yeah, that's a bad
so have I.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I don't know.
Tulane took it to them.
If they couldn't stop CJ Stroud, and in my opinion, I actually think that defense takes a small step back this year. I do not think they stop Caleb. And CJ was doing that the whole second half without a Marvin Harrison. I get Caleb doesn't have that guy either, but Caleb is a much better runner, and we saw the way CJ was able to carve up that defense. I just think that that's where they're going to get exposed, and the times that they got exposed in the past couple years has been against teams that couldn't put the nail in the coffin, right? They couldn't keep their foot on Georgia's throats. Caleb Williams, or if Ohio State gets there, or if Washington, or if Oregon, or a Texas. I don't think Oklahoma gets there this year. I don't think that those teams will have an issue keeping their foot on Georgia's throat, where a Missouri couldn't, a Tennessee couldn't, and Alabama couldn't in the championship game. They lost a bunch of wide receivers. I don't think that'll be an issue this year. They have a shot. I'm not trying to say they won't. They're going to get there undefeated, but I just don't think that they will.
I think.
Can I just back up one point here?
No.
Yeah.
So Matt, you're like, oh, Georgia doesn't play anyone during the season. I do want to back this point up because I've statistically looked at it. I ran a bunch of t-tests, and the SEC East is the only one that is a statistically significant difference between in-conference and out-of-conference and in-division and out-of-division records. The only one in Power 5. Every single other division, including the Big Ten West, not statistically significant. The SEC, East, statistically significant difference. I just want to back that point up. It's not. We're not just saying it. It is, historically accurate.
Backed by stats. Yeah, backed by stats. We love it. All right. So we got one pick left on the clock here. That's the Chiefs after the Eagles take Nolan Smith. We'll just go around the horn here to wrap it up. Give me your best value or your biggest reach. Matt Fox, we'll start over here with you. Who's your best value of the draft so far or your biggest reach?
Best value.
Or biggest reach. Either one would work.
Patriots best value.
I don't know. I think Buffalo trading up to draft a tight end felt like a weird reach to me. I know some people are saying they really like the pick, but if Buffalo had moved up to get a running back to solidify that position or a wide receiver, that almost would make sense. But trading up a couple of picks to draft another tight end did not make sense to me. I think they continue to be a team that's sort of not helping themselves while everybody else around them, even in their own division, is getting better.
Okay. Barnabas, who do you have as your best value or biggest reach so far today?
I'm going to go with a reach, and I'm going to go with a guy that you guys didn't really have anything to say about, which is Kalijah Cansey to the Buccaneers, right? If you're going to invest in a short defensive tackle, take someone like Tommy Adebawore, right? It just to me, it's ineffable to take a guy that, while statistically good, was playing against the ACC and is a 0th percentile defensive tackle. Like, you are looking at, you are betting on an outlier. And we talk about how Bryce Young is betting on an outlier. I'd rather bet on Bryce Young than I would on Kalijah Kancey, because we're both betting on outliers here. And frankly, defensive tackle is a much more physical position than a quarterback, right? It's not logistical, like, oh, I can't see over the line. It's just you are being shut down by guys who are twice your size. And so you better hope that he has that big league peanut butter and he gains about 50 pounds in the league, because we're looking at a situation where, granted, the NFC South does not have the best blockers in the league, but we're looking at a situation in which he's just going to be eaten for breakfast by some of these even centers, So I question that pick a lot.
Okay. Brandon Sanders, who do you got as best value, biggest reach so far?
I'm going to give you two. So biggest reach, Jahmyr Gibbs. Detroit didn't really need that. I still think it's weird. Let's hope that we get a trade going on. Value for fantasy, I love QJ to the Chargers. I just think instant play time. Mike Williams might be injured a little early. Keenan Allen fading to the sunset. That gives QJ the clear path for fantasy success early. So QJ.
All right. Matt?
Best value. I mean, I know it happened early on, but I'm still sticking with Anthony Richardson to the Colts. Just getting paired with Steichen, the offensive line, all the weapons around him. I think, he's got a chance to be absolutely special there. Again, we all love Caleb. I think there's more issues in Caleb's game than people give him credit for. But I think outside of Caleb Williams, Anthony Richardson's the only quarterback in the next coming couple classes that has a chance to be like a top 5 player at their position. So I think, and that's an absolutely great landing spot for him. Reach, I'm going to agree with Matt. It's Dalton Kincaid. Like, he's Dawson Knox with better hands, and Dawson Knox has just not been fantasy relevant at all. And the back really scares me. I really was hoping they were going to trade up and get Josh Downs. I mean, they pulled Cole Beasley out of retirement last year because he needed a slot wide receiver. You should have gone and got Josh Downs. He'd have been a better fit for the offense. It made no sense to me whatsoever to trade up getting, because Kincaid's not a blocker either. Like, you helped your offense you did not help him at all. It was a waste of a pick, in my opinion.
All right, Mike.
I liked the Gibbs.
Don't say Quentin Johnson. Don't say Christian Gonzalez.
But I think the biggest reach was Will McDonald. I thought he was a back of the second type of edge rusher. Okay. He is very undersized. He does have speed, but I just think it's a tiny frame too. I mean, I know Barber's talked about eating that NFL peanut butter. I don't think that he even has that option to add that type of weight on his frame. So I think he's going to get beat up by every single power tackle out there. And then the best value, this is tough, unbiased though. I'm gonna go with Christian Gonzalez, who was a top like 8 pick, kind of like consensus across the whole board. And he lasted to the Patriots, who somehow only traded back one time, which was amazing. I'm so proud of them for doing that, and still got a guy that was pretty much consensus CB2 in this class. So I like that, and we do have a really good history of developing. I say we because I'm a fan, but we because they have a good history of developing cornerback talent, with the exception of Florida defensive backs. For whatever reason, we just don't do that. That state is not our state.
I'll allow Christian Gonzalez there. Corey, bring us home here. Who is your biggest reach or best value?
Yeah, so for biggest reach, I mean, I don't want to keep piling on Detroit here a bit. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs obviously would have been my selection, but even taking Jack Campbell, an inside linebacker, for their next pick, I just like a position that's kind of a little bit devalued nowadays in today's NFL. I would have loved to see them attack. They took 2, in my opinion, luxury picks. When you had extra ammo in the first round, I would have loved to see them shore up some of that young defense a little bit. Their offense was really good last year. I don't feel like a running back was a good pick there either. So disappointed a lot in Detroit's first round. I think for value, I was actually going to go with Christian Gonzalez as well, because he was kind of like a guy that was more like in the top 11 picks. But Jalen Carter falling all the way to number 9, and Eagles picking him up, a team that like is Super Bowl already, and then picking up a stud like Jalen Carter all the way at number 9 is just like a championship move for them. So I thought that was a great value there.
I think my biggest reach would be Zay Flowers to the Ravens. We talked about that one. That one doesn't make any sense to me. I think that he is a number 2 wide receiver on an NFL team. That's not a guy that I would take in the first round. I get that they just signed Lamar Jackson. They just re-signed him. They finally got him happy. They want to give him more weapons and give him an opportunity to be successful. There's other ways to do that. go get DeAndre Hopkins, like we've been talking about. Follow through with that one. They signed OBJ. I still like Rashad Bateman. I mean, Corey, I thought you brought up a great point that their actions are showing us that maybe they don't like Rashad Bateman as much as they did before, as they did like 2 years ago when they took him. But I think that pick was just unnecessary. And then my best value would probably be Jordan Addison. I mean, coming off the board as a fourth wide receiver, that's where like the biggest value there comes for me. Because I mean, we already talked about some of the other ones, so I just wanted to highlight that. It's a nice pick by the Vikings.
Mike is talking, but he's muted.
I do want to give a score update for Corey and I's NFL prop challenge.
God.
We only had 2 bets for day one.
I lost tight ends.
How many quarterbacks were drafted day one? I said 3. Corey said 4. Lo and behold, Will Levis didn't make it. Followed my heart.
You don't know yet because the Chiefs are still picking.
I already saw it. It's not him. And then for tight ends, I said 1. Corey said 2. The score is 2-0, Corey. And you already got the tight end question wrong.
What do you mean 2-0? I got wide receivers right. It's 1-2.
We both got wide receivers. We both said 4.
Oh, I thought you said 3. Oh, did you say 4?
No, I said 3, and there's always one BS guy that slides in there that I graded as a second rounder.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, I won last round, so I mean, you got to tie it up anyways.
Yep, that's right.
But I did think tight end. I did think there might have only been 1 tight end, but I said I'll do 2 because we were too close on everything. I had to create some diversity.
It was the first question. We went in order.
Yeah, but we were lockstep in like 2 of those out of the first 3.
All right, the Chiefs pick is in. It is not Will Levis. So Chris Moxley, I'm sure you're probably not listening to this right now, but when you're up in the morning, grab a bourbon real early in the morning, or maybe a mimosa. Start the day off with a drink because you deserve it. You almost had to get that tattoo. You almost lost that tattoo bet. And Will Levis does fall out of the first round, but the Chiefs pick is in here. They take edge Felix Anudike Uzoma.
Let's ask Corey to say that. Corey, can you give us that name, please?
Uzama. Felix Anudike Uzoma. That's who they
Barnabas,
from
can we
Kansas
get a check on
State.
that one? I'm sure you're probably actually familiar with the player, so maybe you know how to pronounce the name.
Would it be right to say that he is like a Daniil Hunter type? Barnabas, I guess, would be the guy to answer that question.
I am not. I don't remember Daniil Hunter's game all that much.
Okay,
like an
Uzoma kind of guy.
He's a big boy. Like he's a thicker, even front, and he kind of fits really well with the Chiefs and what they want to do because they don't really care whether you're keeping your gap or not, as long as you're getting to the ball carrier in the backfield. He struggled a little bit against Anton Harrison, who was drafted earlier. But he is one of those stronger guys, power rusher, good pass or run defender. A little bit less on the pass rush, but he just kind of makes things busy up front. And he'll definitely open things up because usually he requires at least some sort of chip or something going up. So, it'll open up things for, Nick Bolton back there. And so I liked him. It was interesting because Nolan Smith and Anudike Uzoma were my edges 5 and 6, and they both went consecutively to finish out the first round. And so, decent pick. It makes sense for the Chiefs, though. It seems like a Chiefs pick.
All right. Well, that is it for the first round here. The Steelers will be on the clock tomorrow
with Joey Porter on the board still.
Yeah,
and the Chase Claypool pick. What could have been for the Bears?
The Chase Claypool pick. Oh, that's a brutal one.
Rest in peace, Chase Claypool.
We will be back tomorrow with some more draft coverage. I don't know exactly what the team's going to look like, but I imagine it'll be a good mix of the people here. I know Alfred will be joining us tomorrow as well. Mike's pointing to himself. He'll be here. So I appreciate you guys for joining me. Matt Fox, Barnabas, we got Corey, Brandon Sanders, and Mike. We had Felix pop in for a half a second. We had Matt Bruning on as well. So thank you guys all for hopping on tonight. I'm Colin, and we will be back tomorrow.